would like to thank the teachers who are outside talking to us about negotiations on their time. This is a regularly scheduled PGUSD Board of Ed. Trustee Carolyn Swanson is attending virtually from Pacific Grove, and she does have an agenda posted in her window. So roll call, please. Here.
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 Here. Probably not. She may not have logged on yet. Oh, she? Okay. Okay.
I couldn't hear Mandy. Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, very good. Thank you. This meeting is starting half an hour earlier than usual. We have an unusually long closed session. In closed session, we have one consideration of student discipline, one consideration of public employee discipline dismissal release complaint under Government Code 54-957, a conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation, discussions of negotiations with PGTA and CSEA for 2021 and 2022. Public comment on closed session items. Thank you. Well, do I have a motion? Do we have any changes on this agenda?
Thank you, Mr. President. You all received notification of some of the adjustments that we made to the agenda. So there were some corrections on the consent items that we've made note of. And the changes were also included on the website in terms of the pages that we needed to make corrections on. In particular, information discussion item A, the course catalog. On the agenda, it says that it's a recommendation to review and approve. However, it's an information item, so there is no opportunity to approve that item tonight. It's just information. We will bring it back for approval in the following meeting. The equity plan had a adjustment on the contract value, and then we had a trustee ask for further information a couple hours ago. We posted that further information as well. And last but not least, we added a out of county walk-in item as consent item G, since the wrestling team needs permission to go to a December 4 tournament in Half Moon Bay, and they need to start preparations for that. So we've started on that move. And I think that's it that you need to concern yourself at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to accept that agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Brian Swanson. Public comment on that? Roll call, please. Aye.
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 Okay, I've already announced the closed session items. I'm not going to repeat that, even if it is out of order slightly. We will adjourn to closed session.
And
For people who are here, we have people online. And we are reconvening, coming out of closed session. In closed session, we had a consideration of student discipline. We have a stipulated expulsion. The board voted unanimously to expel student under case number 012122 for violation of Education Code sections 48-900, paragraph C, paragraph D, and paragraph K. As recommended by Education Code 48-915, the student shall be expelled as a student of Pacific Grove Unified School District beginning Monday, November 1st through November 1st, 2021 through November 1st, 2022 per board action. Depending on academic status, the student may apply for readmission to this district on or after November 1st, 2022 for admittance in fall semester 2022-23. Student is referred to the following educational programs for their period of expulsion: Monterey County Office of Education programs or other accredited program designed to accept students expelled for these violations. We had 2 cases of public employee dismissal release complaints. We discussed with legal counsel some anticipated litigation. And we discussed negotiations, planning and preparation with PGTA for 2021-22. And we discussed collective bargaining, planning and preparation with CSEA for 2021-22. At that, to find my agenda, but I believe we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag of the United States. Thank you all. Okay. So written communication. Board, I received multitudinous letters and an uncountable number of spam messages, which I won't go into. I had a parent, a letter from a parent regarding the high school response to a matter between students. Multiple letters from parents requesting a review of a prior investigation. A letter from a teacher showing appreciation to Nurse Pally, and well-deserved, and thank you, Nurse Pally, and thank you to the teacher. A letter from a parent concerning student COVID testing. A letter from a parent concerning Facebook posting and rumors thereon. A second letter from a parent concerning the board and some Facebook items. A letter requesting info on our vaccination policy by a survey company, which bears repeating only because we did respond to it. A letter from a teacher in support of Ms. Priest. A very nice invitation to a Shakespeare in Sea Wing Theater from a teacher. A letter from a teacher relaying some current concerns that have been relayed to her by other teachers. A letter from a city government member thanking us for the November 2nd meeting and noting that they may be following us shortly. And a letter from a teacher thanking the board for re-reviewing a prior personnel matter. So with that, board comments. We'll start there. Our student rep is not here tonight, so Frank.
So I went to a couple of events in the district. I got to go see the final football game, the homecoming, and it was bittersweet, obviously, because our students were able to participate in that activity, which is very important to be able to have these after school activities for our student. So that was nice to see. It was kind of a reminder of still where we are getting through the pandemic, because as they were announcing how many years played, it certainly was not for the students, because they could not have participated for 4 years, but it was nice for them to see them out in the field with their families, supporting them. So that was a pleasure. I was also able to go to the Mix and Mingle for the PTAs of all the schools. Held this group Mix and Mingle, and I went with my wife. We had a wonderful time. I love to see all the other faculty and staff and parents there having a good time. It was such a pleasure to see Mr. Keller, Mr. Rogoman all dressed up in their 1970s attire. It just made it that much more fun. And then I swung by the vaccination that happened at Forest Grove yesterday, and it was really nice to see the excitement there. A really long line that was running smoothly. A lot of smiles on the parents. On the parents' faces. But yeah, that was it was a pleasure to see, and everyone seemed in great spirits. And I really do feel that this is going to be a huge turning point in this whole pandemic. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on how great it is that our kids can get their boosters and a bigger return to normalcy as we go towards the holidays. It was nice to see a lot of teachers tonight here. My papers are almost dry. I got so excited I spilled the hot tea all over myself. But anyway, it was nice to see a lot of red.
very much. Ms. Swanson.
Yeah, thanks, John. Just wanted to add the written communications that I received. An invitation to collaborate on an equity initiative. I got an email from a Herald reporter asking about our vaccine clinic. A question from a person saying they were a student at Stanford regarding vaccine mandates. An email from a teacher regarding what teachers are facing this school year. I also got a letter sent to me snail mail, so through the regular mail, not email, with concerns related to restoring trust in PGUSD amongst families. Let's see, email about inappropriate behavior of a student at PG High School, and a parent letter asking the board to develop procedures regarding sexual harassment. I think, I'm sorry if I overlapped some of what you said. I was trying to scribble
Much of
through
it
the ones.
overlapped, but yeah.
And then just my comments, not related to written communications. We have Veterans Day in November, which already passed, but I did want to acknowledge that and truly thank anyone who's a veteran or active duty doing that service for all of us. Thank you. And also Diwali event is this month as well, which already passed, but I want to acknowledge that. And let's see, I have seen so many photos of families who participated in the Forest Grove Vaccine Clinic. And it, like Trustee Rivera said, I do think this is going to be a turning point. So I'm excited to continue hearing how our COVID mitigations will evolve once our students are able to get fully vaccinated. I was curious if the district is planning to have another COVID vaccine, perhaps at Robert Down. So I'm guessing there'll be some information in the COVID report about if we had enough vaccinations for kids, if there's more who need them, et cetera. And let's see. Oh, now it's November now. Our next meeting, or at least our one of our December meetings, it will come up how we select our school board president. And I've been giving that a lot of thought because we are in the process of districting. And so that means that we'll be voted essentially by our neighborhoods instead of by the entire district. And I would like to ask that the board review how the board president is chosen. Right now, it's kind of a random process, kind of more left up to our own personalities and who we want to vote in. But I do think equity-wise, it would be good to shift to more of a rotation basis so that each of us just kind of rotates through in a very methodical way. And those are all my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Mr. Swanson.
I'm going to just forego any comments in the interest of keeping things moving. It already feels like a long night.
Superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple items, and then I'll save some for the COVID report a bit later. First off, I also want to thank all of the PTAs and teachers and classified staff and everyone who put the mix and mingle together. It really was a great event and lots of great bids, and people were really supportive, I think. And that just spoke volumes for the support the community wants to provide. I did get a chance to meet Craig Bell, who's the owner of First Awakenings, met his mother, who was there to give him a surprise visit, but didn't realize he wasn't going to be there. Anyway, I chatted with her for probably a good 10 minutes. And, you know, she was so proud of her son. And it was just really cool to talk about the support that Craig Bell has given to the district in regards to being the first signer on many of our bond initiatives. He has always been really supportive of the work that we do with students. And it's more than just the mix and mingle piece. He's a really fundamental piece of improving the facilities and the school experience for our children. And so I spoke to her about that as well. And anyway, wanted to comment on that. I also had the opportunity to visit the high school along with Principal Garcia, Assistant Principal Steinbach, and Director Davies to listen to a group of our junior and senior special education students who are on the certificate of completion track. And they wanted to speak to us somewhat like a graduation speech, but to share with us their experiences at the high school and improvements that we could make to help the students who receive a certificate versus a diploma, perhaps realize a diploma versus a certificate. What are things that we could do? They were incredibly well spoken. It was just remarkable and wonderful to watch. The two students, I will make copies for you. I asked the two students who spoke if they would give me the scripts that they spoke with. That's Alyssa and Ryan, and I have them here. I'll give you copies of that. And we did commit to them that we would take a look at what other options there might be, especially with some of the changes in education code. And so I really honor and respect what they did. Kudos also to the teachers and instructors in support of the program, Tara Tullius and Lisa Felsek, who helped to get those kids ready to go. Really just inspirational. And thank you, of course, to our counseling department at the high school for helping those students move along and achieve their success. Last but not least, I wanted to make mention of this because it's sometimes kind of charted under the unsung heroes column. But I had a chance to speak with a Latino mother fairly recently, and it was at the high school campus. And I know a number of those families, they know I speak Spanish. And so we spoke for probably, I don't know, 20 minutes in Spanish. She felt she just kind of let go and she wanted to talk about her experiences at the school. And as we were talking a little bit, she wanted me to make mention to the La Mesa Directiva, the school board, that one of the heroes for her son, who is going to be graduating this year, there are a couple of them, were the custodians at their sites. And it was heartfelt to me because as I've spoken before to our own staff, one of my heroes from growing up was a custodian who really changed my life. And they were commenting that her son had a chance to have conversations with the custodians in Spanish. And it made all the difference to him as he was trying to relate with other people who looked like him on the campus. And the mom felt that was really important for me to hear and for the board to hear, that it's not always that inspiration comes from more than just the classrooms in our schools. Obviously, huge inspiration with our teachers. It was a wonderful opportunity to talk with her. And so I want to thank our custodians who were heroes to this child, as well as our classified staff, our administrative team, and our teachers. It was a great conversation. I encouraged her to come to speak to the board, but she didn't feel very inclined to do that. So anyway, it was very nice, and kudos to the high school staff and to everyone. It was a really beautiful moment. So anyway, that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. You mentioned Craig from First Awakenings. He is our new baseball coach as well. So, we will move to PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items. PGUSD staff wishing to speak? You can go ahead of them. It's okay. Good evening, Ms. Gordon.
Is that working? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you
Okay.
go.
Hi, I'm Karen Gordon. I teach English at the high school. I'm a co-president of the PGTA this year with Shannon McCarty's our president and Nicole Bulich is the other co-president. And we just wanted to share with you some of the comments in a recent survey that we sent to our membership as following up to the initial offer by the district and as the beginning of negotiations. And Raymond, I was wondering if could we show the Zoom, because I know we have a lot of teachers who are attending via the Zoom link.
Can you give us
Can
a
we show
face
their
look
the
of
phrase
who's on
screen,
who's
the-
on Zoom right now?
the thumbnails?
There's like 60 some. Yeah.
Very clear who is using
There
this
you
on a
go.
regular basis. right
Very
now.
There
good.
you
Yes, thank
go.
you. Yes, as you know, many of us do attend via your Zoom feature, and it is very much appreciated that we can do so. And so we're going to just share some of the comments and then some of our own as well. And I would love to take credit for this idea, but this was, I'm not sure whose idea it was, but one of our union unit members recognized that former PGHS principal Matt Bell was well known for referring at graduation to student outcomes as not normal, to highlight how consistently exceptional our students are. On the flip side of this is the fact that a large part of what contributes to such outstanding student outcomes is that going above and beyond contract by faculty and staff on all sites is normal. Here's an example of our normal, and I'm speaking to my colleagues who are zooming in, and for those of you who are here, if you've ever spent personal funds without reimbursement to fund your classroom activities or lessons, please raise your hand, or if you are on Zoom, please turn on your camera, raise your hand, wave. If working late into the night on a school day during personal time at home is often necessary, please raise your hand. If you've ever worked through a break or a weekend to get caught up with school, please raise your hand. If you frequently work through your contracted lunch period, please raise your hand. If you've ever taken school housekeeping home or used personal equipment in order to keep your classroom clean, please raise your hand. If it's ordinary for you to lose sleep at night, worried about a student or students, please raise your hand. If you've ever sacrificed personal and family time to assist students and their families, please raise your hand. If you go above and beyond on a regular basis because it's who you are and education is something you believe in, please raise your hand. If you feel exhausted and underappreciated, please raise your hand. And now this is me talking. I would like to say that we do appreciate the verbal praise that we have received from the school board, and we know that is very important. And especially over the last couple of years, during these challenging times. But that praise has begun to ring hollow when it's not backed up with the tangible proof of the value that the district places on its teachers. It's time for the district to put its money where its mouth is and to make a salary increase for certificated staff a priority. Not just a COLA, but a raise. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon.
Erica Chavez, I teach kindergarten, but I'm also the PGTA treasurer. Another comment that came to light from some of our members is that we need to remain competitive with neighboring districts, especially when our health benefits are factored in. Distance learning was definitely challenging, but this year also comes with its own unique challenges. Teachers and subs are in short supply, and I would like our district to value us and what we do. It's no longer good enough to return to normal. Our district needs to do better by reevaluating how it treats its teachers in the light of all we are expected to do, including addressing the needs and of mental health challenges and of our students, as well as compensate for the learning delays and challenges many are struggling this year. Without intervention staff fully everywhere, we're all picking up the slack. We need to look to the future to ensure that we can attract and retain the best teachers with our compensation package.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez.
Evening. Ann Hober, fifth grade teacher at Robert Down. I'm continuing with some of the sentiments from our survey. This district needs to pay teachers enough to live where they work. The cost of living has gone up more than 5% this year. That does not include the increase in costs for medical insurance. If we aren't offered a cost of living salary increase or more, we will simply be taking a pay cut. After all we have endured and continue to do for this district, is PGUSD proposing teachers take a pay cut this year?
Thank you, Ms. Hober.
Sonda Ferdin, I'm a counselor at Robert Down and PG Middle. I'm just here to say that I want to thank Marie. I can't know if her name is Frail. She's our payroll and benefits person that's leaving, and I want to thank her. Was amazing, and I've never been so informed about my benefits. And I've noticed that a lot of people have been leaving, and I have no idea why. It could all be coincidental, but I'm really hoping that this isn't becoming a trend in our district, because I don't want to lose good people that work for us. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I really appreciate our tech people that have left, and I appreciated her. And I just want to make that statement, but thank you. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you, Son. Anyone else in the audience? Stina, Ms. Luciano.
Good evening, board and community members. I would like to share with you an analogy tonight. Teachers are on a sinking ship. At least it feels like it. We are working so incredibly hard to save the children, to put life vests on them, to get them on life rafts, to bail the water that seems to be coming in from everywhere around us. As I look around at my colleagues who are all working to not drown, we continue to ask, no, beg really, for help. Rather than support and help to do what we need to do, rather than picking up a bucket and working alongside us to bail out the water or help get life vests on, we're given a pat on the back, a thank you. We see how hard you're working. We appreciate you. A demonstration to help us watch how to effectively put on life jackets. An inspirational quote. I'm sorry to say, but we don't need thanks. We don't need a pat on the back. We don't need another workshop. We need help. We need support. We need people to stop climbing on our backs to get on the life rafts ahead of us. We need change, or we teachers are all going to drown.
Very much. Anyone else online? Pardon me, Katie? Katie, Ms. Krieger.
Hi, thank you. I'm Katie Krieger, Forest Grove School. And I'd just like to thank the board members that came and spoke to those of us that were outside the district office today. And I'd like to share with you some conversations that I had. I talked to a lot of people who have to use the benefits through the district. And time after time, I found out that my colleagues are working second jobs in order to do that. And I think that is unfair and wrong. And I think that we need to do better. I'm thankful that I have different benefits and that I don't have to take $2,700 a month or more out of my paycheck to have the quality health benefits. I think we can do a lot better than that. And I'd like to say that last year and this year, we are working incredibly hard. There's a lot of scrutiny on teachers. You know, often we have parents asking for work to help their child catch up, or to keep their child challenged, or to help us, you know, work on ways to support our children in a social, emotional way, on top of all the very heavy demands that we already have. And so I'd really like to ask the board to take a burden off of our teachers, especially those who have to use health benefits through our district. It's time that we take care of those teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Krieger. Buelich.
Hi, thank you. I'm Nicole Buelich. I teach at the high school. I have children at Forest Grove, and I, along with Corinne Gordon, are union vice president this year. Again, I want to share some of the comments that came out of the PGTA survey. COLA and inflation are both on the rise. So are our health insurance costs. We've spent the last 2 years working harder than we ever have, and our responsibilities are increasing, yet nothing is being removed from our plates. Despite all of this, the district is offering far below COLA. Year after year, our purchasing power is eroded by inflation because our salary increases do not keep up. Meanwhile, we are asked to do more and more. The district always used to offer a cost of living increase on top of our raise and money towards benefits without having to give up anything. We need to get back to being respected and not having to beg for the small raises we have been given lately. Also, the board needs to be reminded that many of us are losing $2,000 and more a month with our family insurance plan. Lastly, the last 2% raise increased my paycheck by $60 per month. Each year, my rent is increased by $100. The 2% raise doesn't even cover my annual rent increase, let alone the huge annual increases in health insurance and cost of living. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McCarty.
Hi, everyone. I am Shannon McCarty and I teach at Forest Grove as a first grade teacher, and I am also our union president. And I am also reading from the comment bank that we got that they would like the board to know. The first one that I have is that it says, even though last year was one of the hardest years for me to teach, this year is even harder. Teaching during a pandemic did not magically get better now that we are back in person. This year has been incredibly difficult. Teachers are being asked to do more and more and more. I don't need the district to provide me with a thank you. I need the district to show their appreciation by paying me what I am worth. And then the second one I have is also about insurance. The district seems to assume that every teacher comes from a married or two-family income. Those of us who are single head of household or do not have a supportive healthcare from a spouse, those employees have to lean on them for healthcare. Sorry, I had to turn my page. And so it is just becoming more and more increasingly expensive as a single person trying to pay for their family. And so I am thankful that this year I am actually no longer part of MCSIG, and it is saving me personally more than $1,500 a month, and we had the cheapest plan. So I feel for people who are continuing to have to pay and pay as our insurance goes up. And I know that there has to be a way that we can do something better than offering our members $400 a month, so that they can see a little increase, or actually a little decrease from what they pay. One of my last comments that I have is that is a little long. It says, we are overwhelmed, undersupported, and have been promised additional support and receive none. We are nearly 1/3 of the way through the school year. We are losing key people, and that is also adding to our workloads. Heads of tech, site tech, custodian staff, district office staff, some admin, some on the classified staff, as well as transportation. Teachers are starting to feel that the ship is not going in the right direction. Is it sinking? It says teachers are being forced out of PG in the area because rents are increasing, healthcare costs are rising annually, and we're not receiving the cost of living wage increase in years. It is beyond insulting. We respectfully ask the district to give us an offer that shows that we are valued and that our teachers are able to live in our district that we work in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Selpa? Okay. Kari. My lip reading skills, shall I mind this? Kari, you're on mute. Yeah. Pardon me? Carrie? Yeah, my bad. Thank you very much.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are. We will
Okay.
reset the clock.
Here we go.
Literally.
Okay. I don't know how to explain that this year is harder than last year, but it is. Taking care of our students' social, emotional, and academic needs during a pandemic is no joke. We carry those needs with us home at night and on the weekends, to the detriment of our own physical and mental health and to the detriment of our own families. We are working through COVID exposure, shot reactions, the death of our loved ones. We are working while our spouses are in the hospital. We work with herniated discs, migraines, and anxiety attacks. We work while our children are ill through divorce or while our seniors are leaving for college. And some of us feel like our work is so all-encompassing that we neglect our own children's academic and emotional struggles. We shoulder and absorb the mental health needs of our students. We text with the counselor and the reading teachers in the evening to find resources. We attend an unprecedented number of meetings to support students' academic and emotional success. In my 24 years of teaching, I have never seen an academic spread so vast. What this means in reading, for instance, is I have to plan 5 or more lessons so that all of my students are able to access the material. I have kids reading at a first grade level, second, third grade, fourth grade, middle school, and some in high school at the reading level. And for them to be able to access the material and be challenged accordingly, that's a myriad of experiences to plan. Despite having COVID money for intervention aids, we have educational openings at all sites at all levels. We are being asked to do more with less. And now we are asking for at least a cost of living allowance and for the district to increase their contribution of our healthcare. We are wasting our precious time and energy fighting for what is deserved. PGTA and CSEA have proved we are more than essential to PGUSD. We provide direct services to children. We show up every day with a smile, prepared to meet whatever the day brings, despite an increased workload, despite increased pressure to bridge the gap, despite increased scrutiny in the midst of an unprecedented pandemic. The board needs to recognize our vital contributions and remember to keep its staff healthy and living and working in our community. We must be compensated accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Carrie, while you're on, thank you very much for your note about Ms. Pally. That was very nice of you and very well deserved. And I think everyone here agrees that, I mean, we agree with everything else you've said, but certainly agree that she has stepped up in all sorts of strange ways this year. Thank you for sending that. We have two more people online. After that, we will, and apparently I can't turn this off again. Stop. So we'll go with Ms. Perkins and then Ms. Mack.
Hi, thank you, board members and community members who are here at the meeting. I just wanted to make a note. My husband and I are both teachers. My husband works at Hartnell College, and obviously I work for PGUSD. And we look at our pay stubs, and we both are MCSIG members. My husband pays under $200 a month for the entire family, and I pay $3,000 a month for my family. And unfortunately, the MCSIG rules say whose ever birthday is closest to January 1st carries the family, which is me, January 18th. So I carry my family at $3,000 a year, or sorry, $3,000 a month. And my husband could have carried us at 100 something dollars per month, but because that's MCSIG's rules, I get that. But what is the difference between Hartnell paying that low amount and PGUSD paying over $3,000, or I pay over $3,000 for my family? The equity there, we're all teachers. And we know how many more hours we put in at the elementary school level than they do at the community college level. That's all I have to say. So I'm hoping for more money for our healthcare.
And yet everyone is teaching. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Ms. Mankey.
Good evening, everyone. Billy Mankey, HR Director for the district. I just wanted to note on our classified assignment order that I made a mistake. I have Mark Mahaney under resignation. He actually is a retiree. He is putting in his retirement effective December 30th, 21. And he has worked tirelessly, I would say, and he's just such a delightful person to work with. He started out as a sub for 6.5 years, and then for 10 years now, he's been a permanent employee doing utility work and bus driver. And so you'll see, I know you see Mark around at the sites and then also driving the school bus. And even while Mark was here, other members of his family have also worked for us, his wife and then his daughter. So I just want for all of us to thank Mark when we see him. He has another month left with us. Well, December's a short month, right? So a few more weeks and Mark will be gone. And if anybody knows anybody that wants to drive a bus and get licensed, the district is paying for certifications and training to bring bus drivers in. So send them our way. And thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Good evening, members of the board. Buck Rogaman, principal of Forest Grove. I just wanted to publicly take a moment to thank Monterey Fire for coming and doing the vaccination clinic last night. We had the opportunity to vaccinate 220 of PG's 5 to 11-year-old students. And so it was really kind of a great moment, I think, for our district to be part of, making an effort to do our very best to defeat COVID. And also want to publicly thank Nurse Pally for helping to get all that organized. And just kind of want everyone to know that the next clinic is going to be at Robert Down. We want to make sure that we keep things fair for those 5 and 11-year-olds. So it's just as convenient for people in all neighborhoods to get their children vaccinated. So hopefully we can start to turn the corner. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. You snuck in there. I only had 2 left, didn't I? Oh, well. I normally don't say anything at the end of that comment, but I want to express, we understand, we hear you. The McSig thing is a particular absurdity. I have expressed this in public time and again. I don't know how to get out. If I did, tomorrow is a good day. And really what Jacqueline just expressed, that Hartnell is $200 plus $100 for family. This is a property tax redux that your neighbor can pay $800 and you pay $8,000. That's just, what the heck? But we hear you. We're not tone deaf. We know last year was hard. We know that many of you are coming in. I mean, the 10th grade teachers are coming in with students who are fully formed adult bodies who have never set foot on the high school. We know this. We know it's tough. Right, yeah. So thank you for your efforts. We will continue to listen. We will continue to, work and try and make sure that we balance both the future financial as best we can with where we are and what we can do. But we hear you. Thank you. And again, I speak out of turn. I normally don't do that. So. On to individuals desiring to address the board. Public comment on any item of interest to the public within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board will limit comments to no more than 3 minutes for each agenda or non-agenda item. A total time for public input on each item is 20 minutes pursuant to board policy 9323. Public comment will also be allowed on each specific action prior to board action thereon. Meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public, and note the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. We may choose to direct items to admin for action or place an item on future agenda. Any member of the public wishing to? Seeing none seeing none online, we will move on to consent. Items listed under consent are considered to be routine and may have been discussed at prior board meetings. There's no discussion of these items prior to board vote unless a member of the board requests specific items to be discussed and or removed from consent. Each item on consent approved by the board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. So board, do we have anything that anyone would like to pull? I'll start with Brian, Carolyn. Brian?
No, nothing to pull.
Ms. Swanson?
Yeah, I'd like to pull L and just talk about it a little bit more.
Okay, we will make that the first action discussion then prior to district update. L is contract for services with Community Human Services at PGMS. Christy?
Not at this time.
Dr. Rivera?
Nope.
Okay, and I have nothing. So with that, do I have a motion to accept consent agenda, except item L?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Thank you. We will move directly to item L, which is on page 52, contract for services, community human services. Did you have a question on that, Carolyn?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, so this is, from my understanding, a contract with an outside group. It's a third party that it has a really good reputation in our community. I've heard great things about them. But it sounds like they're going to be coming in and doing some contract services, some counseling services with our kids. And I just wanted to discuss a little bit and verify out loud that this is a group who has been trained to work with K through 12 students, that they have some sort of equivalent of a Keenan training. My questions are stemming just from student safety. I want to make sure that these are folks who are geared towards working towards our students.
This was set up by Mr. Roach. Is he online? Or Ralph, would you like to address that or have somebody else?
I'm looking to see if I can get him online. Is he, can you unmute him? Okay,
Thank you.
Director Mankey can also probably speak to some of
Yeah, I
the
was gonna ask if
personnel
not- if not
aspects
Sean.
of this as well.
Still me, oh, there he is.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Sean Roach, proud principal of Pacific Grove Middle School. And yes, this is an organization that we've had a long-standing relationship with. They were providing Super Kids counseling for a number of years. And these are license eligible employees that are going to be directly supervised by the folks at their organization, as well as our counselors here. And in speaking with them, they have gone through their version of Keenan. They are ready for K-12 student interactions, and we are really looking forward to filling some very serious gaps that we have and really giving us the opportunity to see far more students than we currently have at this point. Very excited about this.
Answer your question, Ms. Swanson?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Roach.
With that, do I have a motion to accept consent L or action item?
Second.
Motion made by Carolyn Swanson, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call, please. Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Yeah, you're right, Carolyn. Sorry, you made a motion but didn't vote there. Okay. Dr. Porras, our next item is district update in response to COVID-19. We are, as of my understanding this morning, we no longer require masks indoors.
That's correct. That's the mandate has been suspended. Well, in schools, we are still. That has not changed, alas. But yes, the county restriction has been lifted for indoor masks. So I think they were trying to take a look at the disparity between CDC numbers and the California Department of Public Health numbers, and then local Monterey County Health Department numbers. So I think they're trying to do the most local look they possibly can, which is different than where they initiated it in the first place. So yes, that's helpful. And a lot of the businesses locally have already begun to adapt to the change. Also, just a couple of items for you, and I just want to give a heads up, if I may, to Dr. Flores and Dr. Nunez, where your item will come up next. So hang tight. We just had some guests and we've been going long, so I just wanted to let them know that's coming. Regards to COVID, a couple of things. First off, yes, absolutely, 100%. Thank you to everyone involved with the vaccine clinic. Nurse Pally did, as we've quoted Mr. Bell, I'll quote him again, a yo woman's task of getting this done. She really did a tremendous amount of work with the fire department in Monterey to make the clinic happen. We vaccinated 220 students between 3 in the afternoon and 8 in the evening. Families left some anecdotal compliments and positive feedback related to the vaccines, and also for the fire department themselves in the way that they interacted with the young students, making them feel comfortable and making them feel like this was, a positive experience, which was great. There's a second dose clinic that's scheduled for December the 8th. This will get advertised out there, which will include all those that were vaccinated already, and then provide opportunities for first dose vaccinations as well. So that opportunity does and will exist. We'll get more information from Nurse Pally on that shortly. In addition, the Monterey City Fire Department is conducting a pop-up clinic with pediatric doses on Tuesday, the 23rd, from 4 to 6 p.m. at Monterey Farmers Market on Alvarado Street. And so that's another opportunity for families to go and take care of vaccination needs if that's what they wish to do. We will communicate this to all of our families in the district as well, so that information will be released. And also in terms of pooled testing, which, as you know, we've now been working on again. Nurse Pally has been in direct contact with the folks from Concentric, who's going to be doing the testing and ordering supplies. That got taken care of as well. That machine is rolling. And at this stage of the game, emails have gone back and forth with both Principal Rogaman and Principal Keller regarding the testings at both Robert H. Down and Forest Grove. The starting date is November the 29th for Robert Down, 3 classes each on Monday and Wednesday. Forest Grove, December the 1st, 3 classes Monday and Wednesday. The pool testing end date is to be announced at this point by the California Department of Public Health. We requested May the 1st, but we'll see. Depends on how long we need it and how long they'll offer it. Consent forms for parents and testing will continue to be made online. Take a look at that as we make that available. And so we're pretty ecstatic about that. Finally, Concentric has not yet informed us about the pool testing for secondary. Their current priority, as determined by the state, for unvaccinated students. So I think they're focusing on the elementary right now. However, we will see some updates for Concentric in the secondary grades relatively soon. That's really, I think, the bulk of what I wanted to share. We had a little bit of a surge of some cases. It looks like as a result of the Halloween festivities, we're taking a guess. And but they have now, we've got a lot of those resolved. We had a couple cases that popped up today. Please take a look at the website for details. Mr. DeVost, Director DeVost, and Nurse Pally have been keeping that up to date, and they've been doing a great job with it. If there's a delay by 18 to 20 hours, please be patient. They're getting to it as quickly as they can to keep it as current as we can. Last but not least, we are very aware that there's a concern for the Thanksgiving holiday and whether or not there'll be a surge of cases coming after, which is why we selected the test dates that we did for Concentric on returning. So I got various feedback from some of the families. There are some families that do not want to participate. And again, I want to reiterate to parents that parents do need to consent to the testing. If they are not going to want that opportunity, they can decline. So any questions, I'm going to ask that you email Nurse Pally directly. You can email us here and we'll pass it along. But I think she's got the most cutting edge information and I don't want to lead you astray. That's what I have for now. And I certainly will send more information out via newsletter or what other venue is necessary.
Okay, thank you very much. Brian, questions on that?
No questions. Thank you for the update.
Carolyn?
Yeah, I have a quick question just on the pool testing. You mentioned that it's just going to be 3 classes at each elementary school, which I think I don't know, I'm guessing we have 18 classes roughly at each elementary. So was that a decision that was determined by the district or by the California Department of Health / Concentric to just test certain classrooms? And my follow-up question to that would be, will the testing then rotate through, or are you going to only be testing those classrooms?
Yeah, I believe there will be rotation. So it's 6 classes a week. The Department of Public Health really regulates how we circulate and who gets picked. Nurse Pally has been a great advocate for our classes, but currently the scheduling that's being moved through goes by first our request and then by their determination. So we don't have the ultimate say. But I think we're trying to do is expand it to the greatest extent possible and rotate it as much as we can.
Understood. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Ms. Dawson?
No questions at this time. Thanks.
Dr. Rivera?
Yes, I was just wondering that after when the classes that did get tested, if the parents could be notified afterwards, your child was tested, came back negative.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I'll have to ask Nurse Pally about that. Her son's playing at his first basketball game tonight, so she asked if she could be excused. I'll get more information in regards to how that's going to look. I think we're still waiting for some word on some of the logistics of it as well. And Concentric's been great. It's just that I think it's just taking some time to get information. So I'm not sure how the reporting will end up happening, but I'll as soon as I know, we'll get that out.
Great, thank you.
Good question. Thank you.
Ralph, is COVID mandated age 5 to 12?
The testing?
No. COVID, yeah. No, nobody is getting COVID by mandate.
I don't know. I don't know. Well,
I'm out of here.
yeah.
So no,
don't want it
realistically, is COVID vaccination mandated at 5 to 12?
The
What's the ruling on that?
the word that we're getting from the governor's office is that as it will be for the other students, it will be a requirement for students at a time. The governor hasn't, as far as I know, hasn't solidified that statement. I think he's wanting to see how it gets rolled out.
Or a date.
Right.
So we think it's coming, but it's almost certainly first quarter. Actually, there's zero chance of it being between now and the end of the year.
No, I would imagine that would not be the
Okay,
case.
and my final question, this might be for Buck and Katrina's not here, but we did not turn anyone away, correct, at the vaccination session. Is that a true statement? Whether or not they were in our district,
Oh, no.
anybody who showed up 5 to 12.
Everyone that was there got a
Didn't matter.
vaccination, and they used basically all that they had brought, like almost to the number.
Okay,
It
and
was pretty impressive, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
it is impressive, and I appreciate that the district is, whoever's there is good. So thank you for that, and I know that that'll happen the next one as well. So thank you.
And again, I cannot undervalue the role that Monterey Fire played. They are just really just spectacular people. It just was great. They did a good job.
Okay, any member of the public? Do we have anybody online? Okay, very good. We will move on to our equity plan. This is Dr. Porras. As you all know, we'll wait.
That could be our speakers coming now.
Early in the year, we asked the superintendent to go out and look for basically changes to provide information in how we create equity, how we teach equity, and we are now at that point. So Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I have. We will be inviting Dr. Roberto Nunez and Dr. Peter Flores from Praxis and from the Monterey County Office of Ed. They'll be presenting their contract this evening to you. So you'll get the particulars from them. And Raymond, you're welcome to invite them to jump on in the meantime. Okay, good. So I want to just preface this item first. Thank you, Mr. President, for queuing it in. Yes, we obviously this was a tumultuous start to the year. Lots of very important issues that were brought up around equity. As a former bilingual teacher and an EL teacher, certainly rung true to me. There are some reforms that we can make, and I think a culture shift that we can make. Every district can always do better. As a result of the direction from the board in terms of looking for a program and a plan and a direction for the district, as I mentioned back then, I didn't want to be reckless in my choices, and otherwise we get a reckless outcome. I think that after a lot of research, a lot of discussion with a lot of folks who were soliciting, and I use that in a good way, their services to us as options, we ended up landing with Praxis and with the Monterey County Office of Education with good reason. They have a tremendously strong track record. They've worked with a number of districts throughout the state and outside of the state in modeling how we can be better at cultural proficiency or understanding the role that cultures play in our instruction and how to best address the needs of our students in our classrooms with a cultural lens. And the plan here was really long-term. We were looking for something that's going to take root. We're going to nurture it. We're going to keep growing it. And we knew that it wasn't going to be a one quick fix. There are no quick fixes. If there were, we'd had it done a long time ago, as Dr. Nunez has told me. I think our game plan here is a 3-year long plan. It's a plan. So as a budget, things may change along the way. We may change some directions, add or delete, however it may go. The contract with Praxis is intended for 3 years and with a lot of services in between. I want to be clear that this contract doesn't preclude other activities, speakers, and opportunities that we might find along the way. Dr. Nunez from the Monterey County Office of Education is a lauded professional in this area. And Dr. Deneen Gus spoke volumes in regards to the work that he's doing. And he knows a lot of folks also that will be able to help us at a local level to bring in speakers, student groups, other advocacy groups along the way that will help just simply enhance the work that we're doing with Praxis. I don't think it will detract from it at all. Finally, and I'll pass it along so you can get a better sense of how this looks, because the contract is really the plan. I think that the piece that the administrative team was looking at, and I think Principal Rogeman spoke to this, as did Principal Keller. Our staff, I know, are excited about the opportunity to learn more about how we can address the issues of culture with our students. And I am as well. We chose the direction of cultural proficiency because it's a transformative process. It's the idea that we're transforming education. It's transforming the process for individuals, groups of individuals, and the whole organization. And it's a mindset. It's a growth mindset. It's a acceptance and not tolerance, but acceptance of cultural differences. How you kind of move from a deficit value in education, where culturals bring deficits that you have to overcome, and shifting that lens to students are bringing culture into our classrooms, and it's enhancing the experience. And how do we shift that lens? And it's important to understand it's not blame-based. This is not saying we have been deficient in what we do. It's not at all saying that. It's quite the opposite. It's an opportunity for us to grow and get better at what we do. There's a term called unconscious bias, the biases that exist that we have that we are unaware of, but still speak in the way that we talk with people and how we act. The idea of cultural proficiency is similar. You have to take an inward look to understand how cultures play a role in what we do. And last but not least, and I'm probably stealing their thunder, but the other piece that I thought that this program helps to offer, the idea of addressing cultural proficiency also addresses a lot of the other needs that we've seen in our district and where lots of other districts do. How we relate with each other across racial boundaries. How do we speak with each other in a respectful tone? How to engage in civil discussion around issues of race, culture, ethnicity. All of those are, in my mind, sort of symptoms of the greater need of understanding culture. So I want to assure folks that are looking at this plan that yes, we understand there are individual incidences that are not to be tolerated. And part of the solution is seen as a long-term project. And in the meantime, we will be looking at other snapshot events that help us along the way. So Dr. Nunez and Dr. Flores, I want to pass it along to you. And number one, I want to thank you both for what you are bringing to the table. And I have enjoyed our conversations thus far. And so I'm going to hand it over to you to give us a brief discussion of the contract so that our board can have a discussion.
Yes, good evening, esteemed board and esteemed Superintendent Dr. Porras. Thank you so much for giving us the honor of being here this evening with you all. A lifelong resident of Monterey County, except for the years that I went to college and all that. But just so, proud of all the work that I see you guys doing every day. I have lots of friends in PG community, and I've already gotten requested just this evening to come in and do some guest speaking in one of your classrooms. So just truly honored. My name is Dr. Roberto Nunez, and as Dr. Porras just mentioned, I am the Director of Leadership and School Systems at the Monterey County Office of Education. And with me, I have my good friend, Dr. Peter Flores. I'll let him introduce himself.
Thank you, Dr. Nunez. Thank you, Superintendent Porras, members of the board, and everybody that's on tonight of the school community of Pacific Grove Unified School District, the parents, perhaps some students, the teachers, the administrators, the classified, the certificated, all the different cultural groups that comprise the organizational culture. It really is an honor to be here with you tonight. Just a little secret, my cultural proficiency journey began many, many years ago under the mentoring of my esteemed colleague, Dr. Roberto Nunez, who handed me the first edition of the Manual for School Leaders. And I took the rest from there and have become really a proponent for cultural proficiency, not just the theories and the concepts, but as a practitioner, I introduced it at first to my school sites, and then it spread to the district. I am a K-12 educator, administrator, high school teacher by trade. I've been an administrator at the high school, middle school, and community school levels, as well as at the district level. And so I'm here, my biggest, I guess, message to you is, I'm here as a practitioner of the cultural proficiency conceptual framework, and I can tell you that it works. And I appreciate Superintendent Porras for his clarity of what cultural proficiency is. And our hope tonight is to not put you through a long, drawn out presentation, but just kind of give you a snapshot of what that looks like. And then we can answer any questions that the board might have.
Standing. So I was again had the blessing of coming out in late September to your leadership team, and we gave a little taste of what cultural proficiency is. And the most glaring aspect that I walked away was just this feeling of great warmth just in my heart that the leadership is so ready for this new journey. And basically, you can't do this type of work unless you have the collective group of leaders that are willing to champion this work and really do change. Now, let me just start by saying that if there ever was a time in the history of American schooling to redesign itself, it is now. Right? We've been given a gift with this pandemic. What we know from our historical context, year in and year out, right? Certain subgroups within our population in all of the United States have been struggling year in and year out. And so it's really sort of asinine, right, to not heed to one of the greatest American minds in the history of our country, to think that we should continue doing things the same way each day, each year, and expecting different results at the end of the year, right? So with that, I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm going to have Dr. Flores kind of lead us through a little taste of what cultural proficiency is.
The framework that we use is the framework developed by, began with Terry Cross, who, this is his quote, "Culture is a problem-solving resource we need to draw on, not a problem to be solved." Of course, that was adopted and put into a framework by Drs. Randy and Dolores Lindsay, Dr. Raymond Terrell, and Dr. Kakanza. They wrote the book, and it's in the 4th edition of Cultural Proficiency, a Manual for School Leaders. And when we talk about culture, it's important to understand that this goes beyond race and ethnicity, that it also talks about organizational culture, and it talks about how it has to begin with an inside out approach. A quote that I really like to draw from is by Geneva Gay, who wrote the book on culturally responsive teaching, theory, research, and practice, when she says, "Together, students and teachers construct, mostly without being conscious of doing it, an environment of meanings enacted in individual and group behaviors of conflict and accommodation, rejection and acceptance, alienation and withdrawal." And so that is the greater culture that we look to change or to influence, to create a high quality education for all students. Next slide, Roberto. So really, as Superintendent Porras says, this is not a one and done or a check mark. It really is a vision for building capacity. And in trying to do so, you know, it is a journey. It is what we call a journey. So we're on this journey of recognizing where we're at as an organization, as individuals of that organization, and as a community, to be quite frank. So the whole school community needs to do this inside out approach of looking at itself and then being able to affect all the cultures that exist within that organizational or school community. Really 3 steps that I've outlined here. It's the inside out approach that I just spoke to, but also a commitment to act, to overcome the barriers that may exist. And then finally, a call to action, or as I like to say, equity requires praxis, or more understanding would be equity requires action. And what are we looking to do? We're looking to improve organizational culture, access and equity for all students, and really provide a safe and nurturing environment, not only for the students and the families, but for all that comprise the educators. And Dr. Randy Lindsay describes educators as anyone that is there to support students and families. So this could be any from classified to certificated counselors, anyone that supports students and families, we call them educators. Next slide, please. This is, without getting too deep into this, I provided this as part of the packet to the board. And I wanted to kind of touch on this a little bit as well as for all of you, for the school community. This is basically why it is it's important to build capacity. First, it begins, and this is some of you may know Simon Sinek's golden circle of focusing on our why, imposed above the cultural proficiency framework. So the first step is intention. We need to be guided by our why, and we need to be able to look at underlying core values. We need to look at our guiding principles and recognize that there's a dichotomy between barriers and guiding principles. So it's like an awareness, and then that leads us to be intentional. The second cycle is the assessment phase. So the perspective then gets guided by, well, what is this, or what are the challenges that we face? And this actually represents the cultural proficiency continuum, from going from the left side of the continuum, which tend to be unhealthy practices, to the right side of the continuum, where we all want to be, where the healthy practices are. And then finally, the assessment will help put us into action to be guided by how. How will we get the results that we want? And this speaks to overcoming personal and institutional barriers to access and equity by embracing the guiding principles, and then setting some professional standards for assessing and planning behavior, strategies, policies, and practices. So in a nutshell, this really represents the 4 tools of cultural proficiency and the conceptual framework. I didn't want to, spend a whole lot of time on this. This is what we would hope to be teaching your first cohort, or your leadership team, or your educators. The next slide, please. So when we talk about transformative change, in my experience as an educator, it seems we talk a lot about school improvement, and that school improvement, while it is good, it is not really building capacity. What we really need is school change. And the way that we're going to bring about school change, organizational change, is to make sure that our leadership and our educators have the lens of cultural proficiency, so that they can then know what actions to take. Next slide.
So just recapping, Dr. Flores just mentioned changing our lens. When you think of lens, you think of glasses, right? But this is more than creating a lens of glasses. This is about really engaging in LASIK surgery. We want this changed lens to be permanent, right? If you just have glasses, you can always take them on and off, and you go back and forth on the continuum, right? But this is just, you need to understand, this is not everyone is working super hard in the classrooms. Everyone is working super hard in all aspects of the educational system, right? And to think that we're going to be doing something extra it can be overbearing, just over cumbersome, if you will. So really, these are some of the activities that even you as a district have reached out to us at MCOE to assist you with some of the systems that you're really trying to fortify in your educational process. MTSS, which comprises of the PBIS spectrum, right? The SEL. I heard several comments on how our everyone's experienced some kind of trauma, right? And that includes the adults as well, right? And then the whole foundational piece of universal design lessons for all students, right? PLC and basically the leadership. All this is already being enacted. So everything that you're already doing becomes the lens through which you do that. And it becomes really grounded, and the work actually takes on a stronger meaning as well. So that's pretty much our presentation in a nutshell. I'm going to stop sharing here, and we will. Oh, Dr. Flores.
Yeah, and I wanted to provide a little bit more clarity, I guess, on the steps to be taken. So it'll begin with a district-wide professional development in February 21st, in which we would be also bringing with us two of the authors of the framework, and really what we call the gurus. Both Randy and Dolores Lindsay would come and spend a half a day with your district. And then from there, we would then create a cohort model for district across the district to take a 10-day certification process to be certified in cultural proficiency. Now, I want to be very clear, this program and this outline is actually from the Center for Culturally Proficient Educational Practice. So it's not from my LLC praxis, it is actually from the center. And so I want you to know that we have been doing this work across the state of California with some of the largest districts. And I'm really happy to say that we just finished a 10-day certification with Los Angeles County Office of Education, and we're going to continue to do work with them and the Museum of Tolerance. We've also worked with at the university level across the country, and we've also worked with Fresno Unified, Visalia Unified, other districts throughout the country, as well as the 21st CSLA region that we're doing some work there. So we've worked with school districts, small, large, individual sites. I implemented it at a comprehensive high school. And also, we're also working with Capistrano Unified School District. We just finished phase 1. And the reason I mention them is because they're, as far as socioeconomics and demographics, a little similar to Pacific Grove. And I got to tell you, they really enjoyed the training, and we're going to be going through phase 2. Lots of flexibility is built in. We have the conceptual framework that we use, but we like to incorporate any facets that might be particular to your district. We want the work to be put to practical use. We want it to support your equity and action plan. And part of it is also teaching you how to do a self-guided assessment of your equity action plan. We really don't believe in having somebody come from the outside and do an equity audit, what used to be called an equity audit. Now we want that to be self-guided, and we can help you do that so that you own the results. You get to look at yourselves from the inside out. And, that's where we're going to get people to support the work. And so I recognize this might have been pretty brief and very fast, but I am super excited. And also, I do want to add this. I've worked with community in my prior job. Community is important to this work, as well as we do have access to other speakers, whether it's Dr. Terrence Roberts of the Little Rock 9, or maybe Dr. Tommy Smith, or other people that have done this work by virtue of their very lives that can be great role models and speakers for you. So I'm also a member of the Center for Leadership, Equity, and Research, and there are resources to be drawn from there as well. So that's pretty much our presentation. We thank you for your time. and your attention. And we're open to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. You know, I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate the write-up that we have in the packet, and in fact, the changes that were made to address costing and how some of the things went through. And I really appreciate, you know, you spent a little bit of time on this intention assessment action slide, which strikes me as it's very valuable to see kind of a little bit of where and how you think you're going to proceed and push that in. I have no questions for you at this time. I look forward to the actual manual for school leaders. I hope we can get that a little bit in advance and be able to go through. My assumption is that's available for all.
I believe that it will be available for our participants, so.
For participants.
And the board, of course. A question did come up if board members can observe and be part of this, and absolutely. We just got to watch out for the quorum part of it. But
we should be
my hope
quiet.
is in conversation to also try to figure out a way to do a board training on this as we get rolling so that we can do an open session and have some more discussion. But that's to be determined as we go.
Okay. So I have nothing else. Christy.
I'm extremely excited about this. The board has always spoken over the last few years about equity and the importance. The hard thing is how do you make it happen? And I was going through my office files recently, and I used to be connected with camp. It was Camp Every Town, Camp Any Town, and it was through FACES in Santa Clara County. And I realized that over about a dozen years, twice a year, I take between 55 and 60 kids up to the Santa Cruz Mountains to do a diversity training. It was incredible. And the follow up with the kids and the changes in their life. And I have always felt that education, so often, of course, we're talking about what takes place within the classroom, but as a counselor and administrator and somebody that used to run student activities and leadership, I think so much knowledge for individuals, students is learned outside the classroom and in interactions with staff, with other students and in the community. And what I really like about what you're doing here is the 3-year idea, because it's sustained. And I think that's a problem. A lot of times we would run a diversity week at my high school and honor things and have assemblies, and people expressed a lot of pride about who they were, but then it's over and then you're on to the next thing. So this feels a little to me like the AVID training I was able to go through as an educator, that you learn things that you get a core group that go out and then educate others. And there's that support that is needed. And the benchmarks that are measurable, I'm just super excited. So really happy to have you on board and very eager to see how people are chosen, because obviously the most effective means of spreading this word in this ideology throughout so that it permeates the district and community is imperative. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And we like to say that this work goes beyond heroes, holidays, and food. So that speaks to the sustainability and really how it's going to really permeate your entire school community. I really believe that. I've seen it. It's, you know, when we talk diversity, we have to also talk inclusivity. So absolutely.
Dr. Rivera.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I really love the write-up that you gave us in the agenda packet. I have the pleasure of representing my college twice a year in a statewide conference discussing statewide policy. And the breakout sessions always have a wide range that we could pick from. And I always go towards the inclusion, diversity trainings, and I learn something all the time. The difficulty is bringing it back and getting the rest of the faculty to buy in. It's easy to talk about. It's very difficult to do. I'm very excited about this because as you heard, but you haven't seen how wonderful our teachers are, and we do need to show them that they are appreciated through action, not through words. I agree with you 100%. I could see our teachers soaking this up because they do care about our students in our district so much that they're willing to do this for the students. So I'm very excited about this. I hope that we could participate in some way, because I know that I have so much more to learn, and I think that you have a lot to teach me and the rest of us. So thank you again.
Thank you. Ms. Swanson.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. Yeah, I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Portis, first of all, because I feel like he put a lot of effort and a lot of time into developing this. I know that a lot of folks had reached out to me, and I had forwarded that to you. And I know that you looked at well beyond anything that I had forwarded you. So I really do appreciate that, Ralph. Thank you.
Welcome.
And then as far as the two gentlemen here tonight, Dr. Flores, I've never met you before. Dr. Nunez, your face is very familiar because I was able to attend the MCOE All In for Equity seminars and saw you many times there. And I wanted to also mention that Christy Dawson, when I had mentioned to her one of those seminars, she figured out how to attend that lickety split and attended it. And so I think that we're on a good path here with you as our leaders. And I will say that I am hesitantly optimistic because I do want to see an outcome that moves our district forward. And that's the tricky part. So I have some questions for you guys, and the questions are all coming from that as a basis where I want this to happen. I want this to work long term. But I have some questions because I was elected to represent my community, my community's kids and my community's tax dollars. So that's where my questions are coming from tonight. So can you speak more about how your plan will survey key stakeholders? Especially parents and staff or the board, before you guys determine the right set of activities and goals for our district?
I'll let Dr. Flores answer that, but I just want to say, thank you, Dr. Porras, for thoroughly vetting us out or into this process here. And yes, it's good to see you, Trustee Carolyn. I do recognize your face as well. That All In for Equity, that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? And so what you guys are actually looking at and getting is to get underneath, the water level and to create some real, and as Dr. Flores, transformative change. We don't want transformational because that just kind of barely moves the needle. We need change for true change, right? And so with that, that's a great question, and I'll let Dr. Flores answer that because that's his cup of tea right there.
Thank you for that question. The training that we give, it's in 3 phases. The first phase is to introduce the tools and the concepts of cultural proficiency to your district, to your cohort. And then once we have the conceptual framework, that moves us into phase 2. And phase 2 allows for the implementation of data. That can be anything from a Healthy Kids survey data to surveys to any kind of academic data that we start looking for disparities, or we start looking for what I call blind spots. Maybe we look at who's comprising your committees, does it represent the community? And so we've also had opportunities, and I did this at my school actually, where we invited parents and community members to participate in the actual training, whether it was an activity or part of the training. So we are always, and really it becomes, the district owns it. The district can open it up as wide as they would like. They set the direction of what the findings are they are looking to address. And so there's plenty, it's not like regimented. As a matter of fact, phase 2 is we want the district to conduct a complete inside out review or assessment of their district and their school community. Then phase two, once we have that, that data, that tangible data, that will be used to create an equity action plan. Or if you already have an equity action plan, that data and that information or whatever tends to surface are then the cohort is challenged to create benchmarks or measurable outcomes to address those things. And that's why I like this 10-day certification. It seems to work well because we're not stepping in and bringing in assumptions or our own data. You're bringing in your own data. You're bringing in the voices of your community, of your students. And all we're doing is widening the lens that perhaps in looking at your school community, who's not at the table, whose voice is not being heard. And as we like to say, being invited to the committee is one thing, but also giving them the same equitable power to join in decisions is another, you know. So I like to say there's a difference between parent involvement and parent engagement. We want parent engagement.
Thank you. Thank you for that. You know, one other thing, I have two other questions. My second one is more gauged towards our superintendent. We were hearing from our teachers earlier tonight on how they are kind of at the limit for bringing more things onto their plate. And so can you talk a little bit about how we're going to kind of assist them in this process? Will there be help for them to, you know, I'm imagining they'll have to develop lesson plans to be pulled away from their class to do this training, or will the training happen outside of school hours, or what will that look like for our teachers? Or should I say our educators, who can be anyone in our district? I don't just mean certificated staff. I want to be inclusive here.
That's a great question, Trustee Carroll. And I think a couple of key points here. We, Director Silva and I talked just about this actually today. We want to try to figure out the best balance of that. We do realize we don't want to keep adding to the load. We want to try to infuse this in the work that we are already doing. And part of that was to begin by bringing this to the February Professional Development Day, where we had already time. It was time slated. It's not adding a different day. It's taking advantage of a day that we have. Okay. We understood that there's a load of other items that we need to deal with, which is why it was a half day. And I think the two doctors here were wonderful in helping to kind of adapt that need, and we know we can make up for time as we move forward. We are using monies that are coming to us from the state. Part of that is the teacher effectiveness grant money, which we will be doing a public hearing on very soon. But the idea of those funds are to help also compensate those folks that are participating in the cohorts beyond what normally exists. And we're trying to find days that are not necessarily just sub days, or days that they have to create lesson plans, but try to be able to compensate folks who would be willing to come, say, in the summer when school lets out, or on a weekend day. We're trying to figure that balance out. A piece of that will certainly come as we flesh this plan out just a little bit more with our principals, but we do get that, and we're trying to balance out. I will say we have been hearing a lot from our teachers, and I think Mr. Roga may speak to this in a little bit, but we have been hearing from our teachers that they're excited about this work, especially in light of the conversations that we had earlier in the year. And I think based on what we're seeing in the implementation part of it, this is really about enhancing the work and the professionalism that already exists. And so we want to take advantage of that and build on it without necessarily adding an entirely new load, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
And if I can just briefly add, one of the strategies we use throughout the training is reflection and dialogue. And that serves us for having those communications, those meetings, staying in the room, smoothing out those disagreements. Reflection is kind of the conversation we have internally within each other, but then dialogue is the strategy of having those conversations amongst ourselves. And I can tell you that a side effect of the training, if you will, is that it also provides a sense of self-care, because the dialogue is such that people get to share and people listen respectfully and people understand that cultural competence is also about understanding others that may have a different view than ourselves. And so I just want to add that has been one of those side effects of the training where the participants say that they look forward to it, and it can help with in so many other areas of the school system.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. And then my last question is, this is a large fiscal investment for our district. I would like to see if the board is open to it, perhaps even a Board of Ed committee developed. It doesn't necessarily need to be an ongoing committee, although I would be supportive of that, but where there's two of us who are involved in and attend this entire process so that we can bring it back to the board, because we're the ones kind of, making these decisions, steering this ship. And it's so hard to encapsulate what was, discussed for half a day and then bring it back to the board without some of the board members having those seeds already planted in their minds. So I think I would like to see that. I would volunteer to be one of those trustees to attend. I would love to invest my time in this. And if the board's willing to have a committee or have others attend, I would be honored to attend with another trustee. And that concludes my comments and questions.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, President Paff. I really appreciate the presentation. I'm glad we're going here. I think about over the last 5 or 6 years that I've been on the board, and we've talked about equity a lot, and we've read about it a lot, and yet we've never really grappled with what it means. And it's a great opportunity for us to do that. One of the things that I really like about where we're going here is that you're not coming in with this rigid template right away. It's like, this is how we do it, and then you do this, and we do this exercise and all that, that it takes a look at not just, I'm repeating what you said, but there were things that struck me, is that you're looking not at just our schools, but our community as a whole and what's unique about it. And we have a very unique history in this community. So, that will be a part of it. It just feels very organic and fluid. And I think that will make it easier for a lot of people who might be more resistant to this to buy in and own it for themselves also. So thank you for that. I did have a question about the February 23rd event. As far as, is that an event that everybody in the district will be able to participate? Because it sounds like that's where the cohort starts. Is that correct?
The February date is a district-wide date.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's the conversation that starts. Here's where we're heading, providing the toolkits, getting folks on board and thinking it through, and the cohorts will most likely, and the doctors here can correct me, the cohorts are going to be created sort of organically from the sites, with site administration leadership teams kind of picking which folks are going to kind of sort of journey forth. So that's my guess.
And I'm sorry if it's in the printed materials and I missed it, but is that an in-person event or is that an online event? How, because it's a sizable number of people.
Yeah, it's going to be an in-person. We're still working on the venue and how that's going to play out if we need to spread out into virtual. But that's a question that's also dealing with other stuff that we have to do as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
An interesting question. I think it is in fact addressed in here in a manner that says essentially, by the way, if this has to go all in person or virtual, we will make amends, but the district has some responsibility to ensure technology, et cetera, whichever venue we choose, but we're not there yet. So, which I thought was an interesting addenda, which wasn't in the contract 2 years ago, was it?
Yeah, no kidding.
So with that, thank you all very much. Ms. Swanson, your question is noted. We'll bring that back for discussion a little bit, whether or not to put that on an agenda item. And I open to public comment. Buck.
Good evening, members of the board. Buck Rogaman, principal of Forest Grove. I had the pleasure of sitting next to a fellow elementary school principal from the Capistrano School District, and I mentioned that we were starting a journey in our equity and cultural proficiency work. And she was just on fire talking about the program that she had been through. She said that it's making great change in their district, and that she is really excited about the equity, inclusion, and diversity work that they're doing. And so Drs. Nunez and Flores, I just wanted to let you know that unsolicited, you got a heavy recommendation from one of the folks that you're working with in the Capistrano district. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention is just how proud I am of the Forest Grove staff at our leadership team meeting. Unequivocally, our staff is ready to dive in and do this work. And I don't think that they're going to really see this as an extra burden. I think they're going to see this as a necessary component to us providing the kind of educational setting that is going to allow every single child to thrive. And it's going to increase our competency in that area. And I know that it's a journey that we're all we're ready to go on. And I think that Dr. Nunez and Dr. Flores will be excellent leaders of this for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Buck. Beth.
Beth Shamas. Well, it's certainly getting a lot of fanfare, but I don't really know what it is. I mean, there's no real good, I've heard the whole presentation. I read through the material. I understand diversity training and all of that. I'm a teacher too. But there's no real examples of the results of this. I'd like to hear some examples of, like, okay, you went to Capistrano, so what did you do there? I mean, what happened? I think the important thing here is, how are you going to communicate what you're doing to the community? Because I'm confused. I don't know what the community is going to think about this equity plan, since maybe they think it started with a high school incident and now we're doing this, but this doesn't really seem to me to be rooted in that. So I'm just saying that it's important to communicate exactly where you're going here, what you're trying to achieve. You know that there's going to be some people in the community who say, we don't need this. Why are you doing this? You're spending all this money. So I know you're going to do these surveys, it's coming up, but again, why are we even going here? And I just think that that's so important to communicate out to our community, because as you know, Pacific Grove's very involved. They're going to want to know.
Thank you, Beth. Do we have anyone online? Forrest, did you want to address any of that concern? Real quick?
No, sir. Thank you, Beth. And certainly, I think when you take a look, especially in regards to the memorandum of understanding for services, it starts to break down the process of what we're doing. And it's an interesting question that you bring up in regards to, was this triggered by one event? Certainly, one event triggered the interest of the community in regards to what we're trying to do. I want to walk this back probably 6 years worth of time now, where the administrative team kept bringing themes forward. The happiness advantage, for example, began that conversation that led us to Simon Sinek's work about the how and the why, and what's your why, which led us into the conversation, which I still wear, was that what's your 1 degree of PGUSD? That idea of what's the 1 degree of difference that any of us can make to make our educational environment that much better for students. And we talked about work that was just like this. Our path, our trajectory has been coming this way for a long time. And we just never, as was mentioned, we just never landed.
Yes.
And I think the work that's described in the memorandum here and the work that we're moving forward speaks to that issue of, we have a lot of global work to do in the culture of our district. This is hitting that. And we can spend some time, I think, with the doctors here and with our staff to kind of perhaps clarify and crystallize in sort of a layperson's way, this path that's led us here and where we're heading with. I think that's certainly possible to do. So I appreciate your comments. I also want to mention just real quickly, if I may, Mr. President, because I know we need to move on with the agenda. For me personally, working through my own cultural background and my own kind of journey as a Mexican-American in our school system up till now, you don't often find people who are educators who are so accessible, so genuine, so attractive to members of their own race, their own ethnicity. It's kind of hard for me to stumble this out, but again, I used the term earlier. I was always looking for someone that looked like me, and I didn't find that very often. And I was looking for someone like me that offered, okay, what's a path that's going to get us one step farther along the line, one step advanced a little higher. I know that's what our parents look for too. And it's not just about Mexican Americans, it's any culture looking for those things. I want to say what was really important to me in our conversations with Drs. Nunez and Flores. These scholars are also caballeros, they're gentlemen. And they understand, I think, in a very rooted way, the access that our students need to engage in this conversation. And that's a piece of it that became really important in the conversation. To me, that was like, oh, wow, wait a minute, this is something different for us. And so I look forward to that, watching our staff, but also these gentlemen working with our students, because I think our students are going to find a lot of access to them, students of any ethnicity, because they're what they're offering. And so I know that that's going to help elucidate some of the work that we're going to do just by the conversations that we have with our students and staff. Kind of a long circuitous story, but there's a lot of meaning here, certainly to someone from my background, and I'm hoping that others will find that same appeal as we move forward. So I appreciate the work that both of you have done for us and with us and will engage in and in the conversations. And I apologize for that little tangent, Mr. President.
No, I thought that was very important. And I think it's in talking about the communication. Maybe we don't know exactly, as we said, the template is open and it's fluid, but I think it's critical that as we travel this journey, that we do communicate what we're doing, what we're seeing, and that will, I think, go a long way with the community because of perceptions that I think might be held. So I think it's an incredible opportunity, and I'm just eager to get going.
Thank you.
With that,
Saw Ani's hand up for a minute, but I don't see it now.
okay. I would like to make a recommendation. We accept this contract for services with Praxis, make a motion to accept that, and proceed to drop the formal contract to move this forward.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded, made by John Paff and seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call, please. Aye.
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 Thank you. You are directed. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. It is, I know you were waiting a while. I appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing more. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful evening.
With that, board, Matt, before you get up, may we take just a few minutes to restretch? as a board?
Restretch, we haven't stretched.
I know, that's exactly
Stretch,
right.
just
And-
stretch.
And reconvene
Can we do
at
it
at
quick, like
8:35, please.
How long is this?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
I hope you're.
8:33.
Back. It is 8:35, 8:37. And we start with our contract for services with steel tape construction for PG High School planner bid. Matt, this was a very straightforward item in so many ways, up until the point where I looked at the map and couldn't figure out what the map showed. If you could put that up for us and maybe just talk about that, and then we'll see if there's any other questions. Yeah, it looks like we were printing
Keep
in
us
yellow
guessing.
and
Keep us guessing.
in black and white, so. Huh. Yeah, no,
There
that
you
makes
go.
more sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we are adding some cement, some DG underneath and then planter beds on top. Correct?
Right. We're going to be adding is either both artificial turf areas, and it's a kind of like a cement treated DG where you can walk on it, where it doesn't have weeds don't go through. We're trying to create student areas where students can congregate, and it's just kind of like what I think I explained in there. These is kind of the first ones to kind of see how they're working, how students like them. And then our plan is to implement them throughout the district and even get on a grander scale of outdoor classrooms where you can use these types of surfaces and sitting rocks and other things, so kids can congregate, teachers can teach, and at the same time decrease our grounds. We have 85 acres we have to maintain with 2 guys, so we really want to try to decrease what we have to maintain and focus on some of our fields where our kids are at.
Thank you. I mean, this is a very straightforward, and it sounds like this is, which isn't clear in this, but this is an initial project. Well, you do say it. These will be used as a template across the district for Life Measure D. So
Right.
here and there, we add a little bit of that, a little bit of landscaping. I have no other questions. We'll just start. Brian, questions on this?
No, now that it's clarified, I guessed wrong as to where they were going to go.
We should
But
add
I
a
like
quiz.
it. I like it a lot, and I'm all for it. Thank you.
Carolyn?
No, I don't have any questions. My just comment would be in support of this. And I think it's, I always consider our school facilities a community asset. So I'm excited for not only our students, but community members to use these spaces as well. So good job, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. Ms. Dawson?
Yeah, anything that we can do that just enhances kind of the physical environment, makes you prouder to be a part of it. I just love it. So thanks for sharing this. Good work.
Dr. Rivera?
Agreed, no questions.
Public? Look here. See nobody up, so we will move forward. Do I have a motion to accept?
I move that we accept the agreement. Oops, the contract for services with Steel Tape Construction for PG High School planter bed improvements.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Ralph, would you give us, oh, Mandy's online. Mandy?
Trustee Path,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Rivera,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes 5-0. Excuse me a minute.
What the?
Thank you, Brian. The next item is agreement with MetLife Legal Plans. What has happened over the last, I'd say, 2 decades is a number of people. Legal Shield is the one that advertises, but have provided for more or less legal enrollments, small kind of fitness club type legal systems. And the district has met with MetLife and is offering this as an option to employees. It is not free of charge to the employee. It is a nominal charge, and items are provided in there. Family, personal, civil lawsuits, elder. These are a few of the items that may come up. I'm not sure what else there is to add on this. There's no cost to us to include it in our benefit package. Online?
That's correct. President Path is $21. It's voluntary. It's just like section 125 or the commonly called cafeteria plan. You know, currently employees participate in with American Fidelity for services such as dependent care. Other coverage is absolutely voluntary. A person can or does not want to join. However, there's a threshold though. This plan that will require 15% of our population, eligible population. We did a survey a few months ago, and we have more than that percentage. It's $21 per employee. And the effective date is going to be January, this coming January, to align with our MISIC and with also with our American Fidelity plans.
Thank you. At this point, do you think you'll meet that, would you say 15% threshold?
That's correct.
Yeah, she said she would.
I have no question. Brian,
Questions?
Carolyn,
No questions.
Christie,
Sounds like a great opportunity. Thank you. No questions.
Frank,
No questions.
public? Okay, seeing none. I mean, the one thing is if we don't hit that 15%, it goes away. We're really approving that we're going to offer it. So with that, do I have a motion to accept the recommendation?
Motion to accept.
Seconded.
Motion made by Dr. Frank Rivera, seconded by Christie Dawson. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pfaff,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Rivera,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Passes 5-0. Board calendar, future meetings. Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. The calendar is pretty much as is, except for we have one item that we need to add to the calendar. That's the December 13th special meeting at 6 p.m. This was in the intention of the public hearing for the funds that we were receiving from the state. And we need to have a public hearing separate from a regular other meeting where it's approved. So at this stage of the game, we would be adding that public hearing on December 13th in preparation for the December 16th meeting.
6 to 7 it's slated?
Yes,
or 1 hour?
it should go fairly quickly, just depends on questions. It's a one-item agenda. It's just for us to have the public hearing on the funds.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no further question. Anybody have a question on that? Raise your hand, please, or speak up now.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we have a meeting on December 6th?
We do. We have a 7:30 a.m. meeting that would not go on this agenda
It
or
got
calendar.
canceled though?
No,
Yeah?
December 6th is not canceled.
Oh, I thought I said.
That's the expulsion hearing.
Oh, okay, I'm confused now. So please say it again on December 6th.
At
what time?
7:30 in the morning, we have an expulsion hearing.
Hey,
That's not
John,
That's not a calendarized event. Yeah,
will you just explain to me why that one doesn't go on?
Ralph.
Typically, expulsion hearings are a singular event, not necessarily a regular meeting, board meeting event or calendar. We don't typically put those on the calendar because they're not part of a regular process. And it may change if something happens between now and then. The date may change depending on the parents. It's pretty fluid in that regards.
And more than that, you would not expect public comment or in fact.
No,
public-
it's a
public
closed
anything.
session.
It's a closed session completely.
Oh.
And we can do it, we could try it. Essentially, we picked a date at our convenience, whether or not it's really convenient, that's another story. But the other one, we know that we need an extra meeting, so we would put it on the calendar. And if there are things that come up, we can add to it
That will become annual. It's likely that we'll need that same public hearing
for 2 more years.
in future years. Yes.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you.
So with that, public comment, board calendar? None? Okay, we need a vote on this, please? So, I have a motion.
Also move.
Second.
Motion made by Brian
Frank.
Swanson, pardon me. Seconded by Dr. Frank Rivera. Roll call on the future meetings.
Trustee Pfaff,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Rivera,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Hi.
Thank you.
With that, we move into information discussions. Our first item is the Pacific Grove High School course catalog for 2022-23. This is an information discussion. This is an opportunity for us to come back and make suggestions, request changes. Generally speaking, we are not requesting changes in the courses unless there's something that's obviously missing or obviously not going to happen. But is really a review of how we present at this point. Mr. Garcia.
All right, thank you, board members. Lito Garcia, proud principal, Pacific Grove High School. I'm here to discuss our course catalog for the 22-23 school year. For those of you who remember last school year, we did a big overhaul of the course catalog from page 1 all the way to the last page. And going forward, I anticipate that we will only have minor changes as we do right now. So there are 3 areas where we have made updates. One is in the mathematics pathway. We've updated some course descriptions and we've added some additional courses. So to the mathematics pathways on page 16 of the course catalog, we have a diagram outlining the different pathways that our students can take, beginning with integrated math. The change here in the pathways started with guidance from the UC and CSUs. This change in the pathway has expanded opportunities for our students. It ensures that we will have more students who are college and career ready. The biggest change that you will see here is that traditionally, students went from integrated math 1 to 2 to 3, and then expanded into other math courses. We now have the opportunity for students after IM2 to go into probability and statistics. So this increases our choices for our students, which is obviously a very valuable and appreciated opportunity for them. So that is the change in mathematics. Would you like to ask questions about that specifically, or just kind of move through the whole thing? All right.
And move through, yeah.
Okay. And then in regards to additional courses, we have added on page 33 of our course catalog, we've added music appreciation and jazz band. Opportunity for students to sign up for that for next school year. And finally, we've added introduction to computer aided design, or commonly referred to as CAD. We've also added engineering robotics and engineering CNC manufacturing. The updates to courses and their descriptions are very minimal, so really no need to draw any attention to any one particular course over another. And that concludes my presentation on our course catalog.
Thank you very much. I made a mark on both the robotics and the CNC manufacturing, as I didn't, they do say pending. I didn't pick that up earlier. For the CNC manufacturing, you know, for me, that involves NC lathes, NC mills, of which to my knowledge, we don't have any. So do you have a plan on that?
So our robotics team and the nonprofit that accompanies them have been adding different machinery to what was formerly the wood shop. And so as, well, one, we'll see if we get the signups, and then 2, we'll make whatever adjustment or additions to the wood shop area. I guess we'll even have to change the name. We'll seek out those opportunities so that we can support the class properly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the, you know, every year, and I think Christy will comment on this as well, but, you know, this is an evolution, and the minor changes, the little things, the first year you looked at the math outline and you said, well, that's so interesting. I don't understand that, but this is very clear. The flow charting is significantly better. And I think even as we come in as freshmen, and you know, Ms. Rice might see this, but it's clearer where we're going to go. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the cleanup. You know, obviously, if you look in this and as you go through, you're going to say, oh, my pagination is goofy here, I'll fix that. But, you know, we don't need to talk about that. You know, whatever that is, the little things you just take care of. Thank you for that. Haven't lost any classes this year? Haven't taken anything out?
We have not taken, we took one course out, excuse me, we did take one course out. We had 2 anatomy classes, one in our CTE department and one in our science department. We took one of the anatomy classes out, so we're not
Fine.
competing within our own school.
We did have a music technology course with the beautiful IMAX that are in the back room behind the band. I don't see that in here. Perhaps I just missed it.
That is not in here. It was not in
Wasn't in
last
last
school year. And so I don't have the history on that. I know the lab that you're speaking about. I don't have a history on the course itself. And being that we do have a new teacher, I think that would be something that we can explore for future offerings.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing else. Thank you very much for the presentation. Board, again, this is information discussion, so it will come back for approval at the next meeting, I suspect, or at least by January. We have to have it by January. So
We'll be seeking approval next
meeting?
December because we are going out to our students in January.
It's going out.
Mrs. Rice is just going to come over and grab me by the shirt collar if I didn't make that announcement. So.
Frank.
Just a couple of things. One is the Avid course on page 39, page 138 of our packet. Towards the bottom, it mentions that the tutorial inquiry study groups preparation for college entrance and placement exams. So I know Dr. Porras knows about the SAT and ACTs being suspended through 2025 and probably won't be coming back, So we've received emails before, so I'm not quite sure if parents are aware of this. So maybe that should be taken out. And also AB 705 was passed a couple of years ago, so there are no longer placement exams given at the college level as well. The remedial courses are offered, but they're not forced to take them. So just I don't mean to say, oh, I'm trying to edit a typo. These are just policy issues that the students should know about. So that's that. And then my other question is I'm really excited about the movement towards dual enrollment that we've been doing with our CTE and then Jen Erickson. I see a lot of AP, and I know that how it was explained for me was that class AP dual enrollment. I don't know if that's true as far as level of rigor. If it is, I believe our students, through educators, know that through the Pygmalion effect, if our educators believe in our students to reach that level, they will reach that level. Also, the difference being that the AP students have to test at the end of the course to get college credit. Dual enrollment students get college credit just by passing the course. And also all the student services available at MPC now become available to them.
Yes.
I know our history teacher meets minimum quals for teaching a dual enrollment, but he's teaching AP. Is there a way we could start making a push? Like this is going to be a bold statement. I almost think AP is outdated.
Ooh, that is bold.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if this
Should
is
we tell the AP teachers that tonight or?
No, I mean, if our AP teachers do not meet minimum quals, again, another bold statement, maybe we should start providing, incentives to get them those minimum quals. Let's just up our standards. And I don't know, this is just a direction I'd like to see the district take. So that's just a general statement.
So these are conversations that we began last school year in regards to dual enrollment outside of the CTE department. And it's conversations I continue to have with our teaching staff. We've approached individuals and talked to the entire group that I would like to see more dual enrollment offerings. I think it provides, again, more opportunities for our students, and that's the impetus behind my work on the course catalog, is to reach more and more students. So my hope is that in the coming years that you will see this change in that area where we're offering history and English and science and beyond in dual enrollment courses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dawson.
Yeah, obviously I won't talk about, I care about this a lot because was my job for so forever. The spacing and stuff, I hope next time we see it, when we vote on it, it matches. So it's not up on each other and then an inch apart. What I care about a lot too is that I want parents that are maybe not as familiar with the college systems to have maybe a little more meat. And it's wonderful. There's a great counselor here tonight. We've got a sentence here talking about the 9 campuses available. But when I hear a 3.0 and you're ready to head off to the UC, I just think it's nice to kind of put in there a couple of sentences that kind of make it clear. I mean, even saying 2.0 for state colleges. I mean, last time I looked, San Diego State was like you needed a 3.7 to get into there. I mean, it's crazy. So I think it would see, though that's there, it's very competitive and certain UCs are much more demanding so that parents reading this kind of get an idea if they're looking. I just think if I didn't know much, that would worry me. Also, you have clubs above the sports and sports above the clubs. So somebody's going to go through and just fix all that. Yeah.
Well, the formatting gets changed when this converts from our Google Doc to a Word doc to a PDF. So when this is live on our webpage, which you can go in and look at the current years, the formatting is correct. So I'm just, how this converts over to paper, unfortunately,
It just
you
doesn't.
see those things, but when it's
Okay.
a live Google document, it looks nice.
And I think the course requirements, I think, as you alluded to, the pathway, are you laughing at me? I think that all looks good and I like it. So-
In regards to your earlier statements about more information, Mrs. Rice and Mrs. Paris are holding meetings with our freshmen, our sophomores, our juniors, and our seniors. And
Yes.
they go into a lot of detail that pulls out some of the information that you just brought forward.
Yeah.
In informing our parents about that. So we do provide that information to them.
I understand. I just think if there's a sentence saying there are 9 campuses and then you list the 9 campuses, it's redundant. And I would rather see a couple of sentences that gave me as a parent, maybe who's new to the country or new to the system, a little more idea. So I think that can be done kind of easily personally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson. No, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at the fact that pagination between Google Docs and any other system fails. Brian, and then we'll go to Carolyn.
Not a lot here. And well, there's a lot here, not a lot here. I like what you've done with math and making, creating more of those options. It's great. Because again, not all kids want the same things or need the same things. I wanted to key in on what John had mentioned too, though, about music tech courses, that it'd be great to bring that back at some point. I know that's nothing that you can just snap your fingers and do. And I would imagine, all due respect to our music instructor at the high school, some of the kids in the school are way ahead of where he might be tech-wise right now. The things that you can do with a Focusrite interface and an iPad are just astounding. And the equipment that we have in there right now, those iMacs are probably pretty worthless. Yeah, pretty much. But you can do so much more now with so much less too. So anyway, it would be cool to see, and maybe it starts as a club with some kids getting together to try to do it. The amount of music that I see coming to us from young people these days and albums that they made in their bedroom is just insane. So, but that's something to look at down the road. So thank you.
Thank you very much. If they're truly useless, then we need I think that they are more than useful for 24 teachers in the district, and we should figure out a way to get them to them. That's a different question. Ms. Swanson.
Thank you so much. I have 3 comment questions. First of all, can you tell me a little bit about how this course is translated into Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families?
Currently, it's not.
Can we get that to happen? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We'll look into that. Yes. I
Okay.
see the importance of that.
Okay, wonderful. And then this is a completely different, so that was my Spanish question. My next question is about MPC. I'm a big fan of community colleges. I went to a community college and got my associate's degree and transferred to a 4-year. And every time I look at this catalog, I always kind of wonder how we can incorporate and embrace and collaborate more with MPC. It's a fantastic resource in our community. And I was just doing a little brainstorming, and I'm hoping maybe this is a future agenda item for staff, but I'm curious how we can increase our collaboration with MPC. I know that we have an elected representative for our community that PGUSD is in, who serves on the board. I don't know if we should try to reach out to that person and have them come present, or have their president, also known kind of like their superintendent equivalent, come and chat with us or something. But I would love to see that relationship warmed up a little bit more. I don't mean to discount any communications that you're having, Mr. Garcia, with them. I'm sure you're in contact with MPC, but I would love as a board for us to kind of get wrapped into that participation as well. That's my second thing. And my third thing is a question to John Paff. You mentioned a lathe. Is that a wood lathe or a special robotics computer manufacturing lathe that the school would need?
Well, I mean, if you go into a CNC shop, you are generally looking at a metal lathe, not a wood lathe.
Okay.
And a CNC is a very specific, right, computer numerical control. You're talking G code and programming and the ability to actually translate, and on occasion translate from a CAD drawing to something. So what the robotics club has is a 3D printer and some hand tools and some regular shop equipment, but NC is far more specific and go through. And, you know, depending upon where you want to go with this, you may or may not need it initially. You may never need it. But it is, you know, a lathe, a mill, a couple lathes,
Okay.
mills.
Thank you. That was my question. You brought it up and I had a question about it. Thank you. That concludes all of my questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Public comment. We'll get to Shane here in a minute.
Here's one.
Matt.
So I get to speak to you as a dad tonight.
Yeah.
Of a student who's graduating. And we're trying not to get choked up. Dual enrollment, and she's on track to have her AA by June.
Wow.
It's
Congratulations, Carly.
yeah, we're super happy. It's been it's not for everyone. I think there's still, every kid has a different a path. AP might be their path. For her, it wasn't. And it's been an incredible experience for her. And she's using that to propel herself in her essays or college essays to get into college, as well as her way to stand above or outside of the students that have taken AP. But we've been on some incredible journeys. And she took, for example, an astronomy class, and this professor had the entire family hooked. And we ended up going to the base on Kauai. We had an opportunity. We ran into this guy that he set us up with, and we got to go out and see the stars on the Air Force Base there, and it was incredible. So she completely engaged in it. To take off my dad hat and go to the transportation hat, I have had a couple of conversations with Lito, because I fully believe that this is a way to go, but we have to figure out a way to get kids that can't get to MPC there. And
Yeah.
if that means vans and drivers and stuff like that. So if that's the direction the high school wants to go, that's something that I think the transportation department has to look at, even though we can barely get kids to school right now as it is. So it's a challenge. So thank you.
Thank you. And in fact, in one case, we have brought MPC to us. Am I correct? We have a computer system and programming going on over in, I want to say E-Wing, but I think it's not E-Wing. It's the next one over. Okay. Shane, are you still online?
Yeah, I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, President Paff. Dr. Rivera, you had a question about dual enrollment, and I just wanted to, whoever's listening online too, I work with Christian Smith, who's the dual enrollment coordinator over at MPC, and we've, worked together along with Jen Erickson and Celia Laura and adding our dual enrollment classes at the high school. We always hover between 9 and 11 right in there. Sally Richmond has recently added a CSIS 9 course in her software design class. So we're getting there, but those are all elective classes. And one of the things, if the public that's listening here, or just anybody at all, is interested in trying to expand the program, I would recommend going to the MPC board meetings and going to public comment. And I think applying pressure is a bad word, but basically saying like, hey, look, all the high schools, particularly Pacific Grove High School, is attempting to do this. And one of the barriers that we run into at times is the minimum requirements. You've mentioned Mr. Powers does have that, and that's true. Laura Lee Guyona was also interested in potentially going to a dual enrollment route for her AP courses. There's a perception, though, by some departments at MPC that if students in high school are taking these dual enrolled courses, that they won't, be able to sustain their courses at MPC, which is a misconception. And I think that the board at MPC needs to hear more and more of that. And I go twice a year and I kind of do this and along with Christian, and we're trying to get the word out that that is a misconception. So I just wanted to let everyone know we're trying, we're getting there, but there are some barriers, and I highly recommend going to MPC board meetings. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Steinmuck. Anyone else online, Raymond? Okay, with that, I think we have concluded, provided you a little bit of feedback. Thank you so much for the presentation. I want to go back to lathes for a second, only because right now we are 10% in the hole because we can't find lathe operators. So my company is, 8 months overdue on stuff because there's people are not available in certain skills, and that's a skill that's missing. So if you get one,
See if you can get that
we have
done.
guaranteed jobs in 2 years. Okay, moving on. Thank you very much. We go to our Measure D update. This is Mr. Kelly, and there is no summary available of what you're presenting. No summary. I will say earlier today we approved consent, and on consent was an update to KL, which included what I perceive as almost the last bit of expense on that, to bring us to roughly $390,000 on a $500,000 project. So we're going to be, well, it's going to be slightly over, but slightly over 400K. So congratulations on that. Okay, good enough.
It is now.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll start over. So we just want to hit on some current projects, look at some spring and summer of 2021 projects that are in design, and that we'll be bidding here in the next couple of months, and then take a look at our budget. So right now, the last couple of weeks, I'm deep into the district telephone replacement project. A ton of programming, a ton of information coming from us to Maverick. And what they're doing right now is they're taking that information and they're pre-programming the entire phone system. We plan on implementing the system and putting the actual devices in this winter break, the last week in December. The good news is that this was approved in September. We've got the contract done, so we got materials. We're not having a supply chain shortage on this so far on about 95% of the items. So And they think that other 5% will be in the next week or two. So we'll follow up the implementation of the project with some training. And then we'll probably start a communication plan at the parents sometime the middle of December to let them know we're changing over phones. We may have some disruptions as we do this changeover and be patient and maybe give them some other numbers to call. And so we're just kind of trying to put that plan into place before we implement it. Second is a district rekey project. This has been a project I've been working on, and one of my maintenance guys, Jeff Stutzman, has been working on for about the last 4 months. And we're finally getting to the point now where we have a whole scope together and we're just finishing up the pricing. I'm hoping that will be to you for a contract in December. And that implementation is probably going to take anywhere from 6 to 8 months to do. It's every door in the district. There's a lot of pre-manufacturing and stuff like that. So that's a longer road project. But it looks like right now we're going to be coming in under budget for that project as well. The maintenance trucks, this is something that was approved by the board. I think in August, we ordered the trucks and we're still not expecting arrival till March of 22. So if you still see us driving the vans and say, wait, how can I thought we got new trucks. Well, we do. They're not even in manufacturing yet. They don't even have a manufacturing date. So it's just a tentative March of 22 that we'll get them. Next is the high school bell clock and speaker system. So this just kicked back off. We had some supply chain issues. AMS was doing some other work for us. And so they're back up working at the high school. We're hoping to have this complete by January 2. So when the high school comes back, we'll have new phones and they'll have new bell and clock and speaker system. And then K&L, which I put a little video together, kind of shows the before and after. I did get a call from the painter today and they are complete. They're asking for a punch list inspection. And so this project is, I guess, officially done except for any punch list stuff. So as you can see, we had a lot of unknowns going into it. We had a big budget. We came in under budget. We ended up doing the whole outside eaves of the roof instead of just portions of it. Put on this new roofing system, which we're going to incorporate throughout the district. And then in the paint job, what we did is we kind of went with a 2-tone paint instead of a 3-tone paint. And with the blue, try to match a lot of the different blues on campus, added some green, added some blue and stuff like that. So we felt like we got a pretty good mix of combination and it came out pretty good. So I'm sure we'll be hearing some feedback on it, whether they like it or don't like it before we have to paint the whole campus. So spring, a summer, we're looking at quite a few projects at David Avenue, roofing and gutters, driveway, playgrounds, and sewer line. We started the sewer line project, we cambered it. We know where a lot of the issues are at. What we're trying to determine right now with, I'm contemplating on bringing on an engineer and I'm seeing if we need to redo the entire line or if we can just make repairs to it. But I think all the maintenance guys are leaning towards a complete replacement because they get called out there at least once a week for a backup. And then, what's that? Almost once a week. Yeah, we got a lot of tree limbs and some there, it's just starting to crack and yeah.
Same stuff that's breaking up the driveway.
Yeah. Yeah. Robert Down, we have some playground that we're going to redo. We have the VCT flooring replacement. And then we have the exterior painting at Robert Down at the middle school that we're moving towards the summer. Some of those are easier projects to put together as opposed to the PAC, which we have started putting together and we've gotten proposals for. Excuse me. But we kind of have to do some more extensive research. We're hoping to get that project bid for summer. Excuse me. Okay, take this.
Oh.
As we look at the budget, not only for this year, but also going into the other series, we do have some concerns, obviously inflation being huge right now. I don't know if I've ever seen inflation this much, and how do we project a couple of years into the future on what costs are going to be. We have material shortages or supply chain shortages that we're dealing with, labor shortages, obviously. And to throw that all in, it's like with this new infrastructure bill, you're putting all that stuff on steroids. Anytime the federal government comes in and puts a ton of money into the construction industry, prices just go skyrocketing. So I think it's important that we stay really conservative in our approach to how we're doing things, keep decent size amounts to the side, so we make sure that we account for inflation. And we'll kind of talk about this here. So this is our active and complete projects. We're mostly going to focus on the active projects in Series A above. So we have our current budget for these projects. We have an encumbered amount, which basically is how much we're in contract for and what we owe contractors. And then we have an over under, which is just the difference between the two. It's kind of something for me to look at to see, are we under budget or over budget? So right now in our contingency, we have $104,000. And that's kind of some of the savings that we've had from other projects. And we've also used some of that contingency to increase some projects that they're going to hit by some of the inflation that we're seeing. And other things, we also have an emergency repair contingency still at $150,000. That was just that contingency of, hey, if something comes up, pumps go out, we're going to have that money. So as Series A starts looking to come to an end, we can start talking about what we want to do with that money if we don't have to use it, because Series B has its own contingency as well. And then the phone replacement system that we just talked about, we were able to save quite a bit of money going with the network and also on the general fund. So in Series A or Measure D, we're going to save, right now we're about $158,000 under budget. We still have a couple more things to buy that didn't come with the system, but all in all, it's looking pretty good right now for the telephone project. And then the K&L, we have an encumbered amount, including the change order that was approved tonight, of $382,000. So that's about $117,000 savings. And all that stuff, whenever we have savings, will go back into the contingency. That is it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. So go ahead and put those slides back up if you can. Report us as we start on David Avenue. Where are we with our thoughts in moving a child care center over to Lighthouse?
Really engage that discussion too deeply. It's kind of not had a chance or an opportunity
Okay,
to do
so it is unlikely it'll happen by summer or next year. We would have to do that right now, more or less.
Well, we would have to make sure the facility is available for those students to move to. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen quickly. It'd just be a matter of whether or not the facility is there.
Okay, could back up, Matt, a few to your David Avenue slide, please. I'm sorry, I had to get up. I can't read that from here, so bit of an eye chart. Perfect. Thank you very much. So everything in here assumes that David Avenue use is same as it is now. Is that correct? I mean, if we have the charter school in there, you're gonna have to do the sewer line replacement one way or another. The roofing is a done deal, correct?
The way the sewer is, the sewer captures all of community high school and the whole campus. So that's like you have.
It's a given. It's
Yeah.
a done. Yeah. Okay. The playground structures are for both us and the other preschool there?
Correct.
Okay, do we pay for theirs as well?
Yeah, it's part of the facility. Yeah.
Okay. Driveway improvements, yeah, anybody who's driven on that driveway. In fact, if you just left only that, none of us, yeah. But you know, trees grow, things change. Okay, so as you do this, I'd go back. A year ago, I asked you about some fencing down there on the edge. I assume that's built into the playground structure line. A few dollars for that.
Yeah, obviously we can allocate it. It was a matter of whether the program was
Yeah.
going to stay there or not, and whether we should put the funds
Okay.
into it.
I think we have another year almost guaranteed at this point, unless Ralph tells me otherwise right now. So it's kind of low hanging, so. The rest of what you presented, these are very broad numbers. This is a very broad set of paintbrushes and very, as you say, very conservative. But on the other hand, that's served us well so far. You know, you're going to carry forward $150,000 from Measure A into Measure B as your contingency. Guess what? We just freed that up for Measure B. So I'm very excited to see these progressing. I am exceptionally excited. I have not seen KL since you painted it. Apparently, if that was last week, now I know why. But the improvement there is just fantastic. And we actually had a couple rains, so you probably know if it leaks. So you're in a good spot already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't heard anything.
It's already been tested, so
Yeah.
so we're really in a good spot. As I mentioned to you, as you were sitting there, I had the opportunity to really go down on the track and field. And that's wonderful. Thank you very much. And really the football games, Frank said he saw one a couple weeks ago. I've been to probably 4 or 5. Well, the same 4 or 5 you've been to. Yeah. Really, Matt, progressing very nicely, and the big ticket items that we started are done despite outside pressures. And thank you for your efforts, and thank you for presenting this today. So with that, I have no other questions on it.
Can I make one comment about
Yes,
that?
please.
We have had an architect go out and look at we looked at the boneyard at the adult school if we were going to move the daycare there. And the improvements that we have to do there would be having to go through DSA.
Yeah.
He's given us a ballpark estimate based off of other projects that are similar to it, square footage of about 1.7 million
To fix the boneyard?
to fix the boneyard. Those are the types of improvements that have to happen there. It's mostly restrooms and are the big ticket items, but because you have to go to DSA, you're having to go out into the parking lot, fix ADA stuff out in the parking lot. And so all the stuff just keeps adding up.
Does that assume the structure of the building is worth anything, or is that?
No, that's
knocked the building down, or no?
It's not knocking the building down. It's basically keeping the structural part of the building, and that's still good. And then basically doing a tenant improvement type of project where you do all carpeting, windows, heating and air, doors, you name it, or in restrooms. The restrooms are the big thing, especially with daycare, because you have to provide both adult and children's restrooms. And so that ends up being quite a big ticket item because of the ADA involved into it.
I don't get away with that at the co-op, or is the building just so old it's never?
It's because it was
Grandfathered
when
in.
it was built with DSA, those were the rules. And not until you touch it again and have to do another project, you have to update the facility.
Okay. And my recollection is Barbara actually may have some funding if we choose to go that route. We would have to fully address this. This is all conjecture, I guess.
Yeah,
I should let it go.
I'll let her speak to that one.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a later question. We haven't gotten there.
So it's a big project that wouldn't be pulled off before the summer because
Yeah, okay.
DSA right now, I think, is 12 weeks for
And
review.
what you're doing on David Avenue and making those improvements, good choice. Thank you very much. With that, Christy, questions, comments? Sorry.
Thought the pictures looked fabulous of the changes you made, so that was wonderful. And it's nice, as everybody's going to say, for you to save us any monies as we move forward. What a blessing. So thank you for good work.
Dr. Rivera?
Yeah, it looks beautiful. I drive by often to the grocery store. The only question I have, and is what is the white roof? I've never seen that before.
So it's a weather, it's called WeatherTech, and it's basically an asphaltic type of compound that's about a quarter of an inch thick, and it has a fiberglass barrier on top of it, which allows for expansion and contraction. So it's not like the old rubber fabric that you would see on roofs. And the reason why I chose white is because it's Title 24. So California has a Title 24 energy savings. And it really was, I was really thinking about, like, we've had discussions about what are we going to do with air quality in our classrooms in the future? Well, if we decide to kind of really control air quality with the HVAC system, it means closing windows and doors, which means we're going to probably have to put air conditioning in, and we have to have white roofs if we're going to put air conditioning in. So I'm kind of just trying to project ahead. And I thought, well, if we don't put air conditioning in, we still have energy savings with the white roofs, and that helps too. Not that it gets super hot here, but it does make an impact.
Great. So it's practical and it looks nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. President, Principal Martinez has her hand raised.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll get to her when, I brought it up, get to her thing. And that has, my recollection is that's like a 50-year roof, isn't it?
I think it's warranted up to 40 years, and I think we'll get like 50 years out of it.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Well, no one knows. No one who bought it is still around at 50 years.
We can't prove it.
I've already checked with you. Carolyn?
Hi, Mr. Kelly. Hi, Director Kelly. Thank you for your presentation. And I was wondering, I mean, I didn't have any questions with the information you presented, so thank you for that. I'm wondering I'm wondering your thoughts on this idea. Our parking lots, and I think it was actually brought up in the past, but I was curious if we could, for safety reasons, implement some sort of labeling system for our parking lots, either numerical or letters or animals or, colors, whatever, just for safety and directing, I guess, clarity for directing families to where to go, where to park, but also safety for our emergency responders. If we have an emergency on campus, we can direct them a little more clearly to the parking lots. What is your thought on this? And can we use Measure D funds to do it?
Yes, we can use Measure D funds for striping. I think we have some projects that deal with striping and an overlay of our parking lots. And I don't know if I guess I'm following you on the different color systems. So would it be something like, the red parking lots at the high school and the blue ones at Forest Grove? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, just name the parking lots in some way to identify them.
Yeah, I mean, all that would be, I think, in striping and in mapping.
Okay, so like when I would pull into the parking lot, because it doesn't have a name, so I'm just going to describe where it is. The parking lot that's at the high school, I think maybe the students park in there right now, but you go up Sunset from the high school football field and you take a right into it. So like that parking lot, instead of me having to say that out loud to describe where it is, I could say it's parking lot 1A at the high school.
Yes, the students call it the senior parking lot.
Okay.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, if I'm right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see something like that just for clarity and for safety, if possible. And then, I appreciate President Paff bringing up the fencing for the littles, the little kids, the very young kids up at the David Avenue site. So I'm definitely in support of that if that's possible. And this is just more of a comment, but I love the kind of pilot project that you're doing at the high school for the sitting areas. And if you happen to have extra of that material, maybe you could do some piloting up at the playground area, because it sounds like that's kind of like your next area of focus. I would love to see that, of course, assuming that you worked with the operator of that site before doing that and not just go off what I'm saying, but I could see them really benefiting, and it would be some really amazing before and after pictures for what we've got going on there right now. So those are all my comments.
Is that the playground at the preschool that you're talking
At
about?
the state preschool.
Got it, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brian Swanson.
I will keep it brief. Appreciate all the detail. Love that you are able to keep a lid on the costs. Obviously, that extra information on the roof is really interesting too, and it's appreciated that you're looking that far ahead to what happens if we have to air condition these rooms too. So, it goes again, other people have commented on it already, but the improvements at David Avenue, that parking lot, it's hard to walk through it, let alone drive. So you
Yeah.
could lose a tooth or two driving through there. So I'm excited to I want to go drive through that parking lot when it's done.
Do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Field trip.
Next board meeting, when it's done, we'll just have the board meeting from our cars in that parking lot. Can we do that?
With that, do we have any public comment? Brian, you good?
I'm good.
Thank you. Beth?
I'm concerned about, I saw in the donation column today that our new baseball coach gave $10,000 for what? For fixing up part of the baseball field, the cages and everything. And I'm wondering why that isn't part of the monies. I mean, it seems to me like the baseball field has been pretty neglected. And why wasn't that included in our facility updates? Because I hate to see someone spend, feeling like they have to donate $10,000 to facilities. That doesn't seem right to me.
I appreciate your comment. I think for Craig in particular, I mean, you know Craig, right? I think this is such a labor of love for him to be there, that this is what he wants. He'd like to be able to help out. And if, we certainly, I think the baseball field is in, personally, the field's in great shape. Now, we could argue about the stands a lot, but yeah, they're old telephone poles. So, but I think that stuff's there. So, yeah.
I don't feel like it's
Yeah.
So yeah, we have almost $75,000 for the baseball fields that will be going towards it, like in Series B.
It's 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it just was based off of the money that we had versus what had to be done before that. I did meet with Craig yesterday or the day before. And so we're going to do some things to the field already. And I think we'll be able to use some of the funding that we have and some of the other funds that for Measure D that we set aside. We have to do something with the bleachers before the season starts. That's an emergency project. So we're going to go in there. We're going to get new bleachers because I think there were some worried parents and people when we had the playoffs last year. So that'll be addressed before this season. And the foul poles, they might be so rusted, we might have to address those as well. And we have some fencing that has holes in it. So those will be addressed right off, but the main project won't be for another couple of years.
On the list.
It is on
It's
the
on the
list.
list.
It's on the list. It's
Yeah.
got a budget to it. And so, yeah, it's coming.
Yeah. And it's very generous of Craig to,
Yeah, it
at
is.
First Awakenings, to say, I'm coming as a new coach. I really want the batting cages I want, and I can make it happen. So I'm going to help out. So I appreciate that. Thank you very
Coaches
much.
get paid so much.
Yeah.
That's probably what he paid.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't get paid back. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moss. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? Seeing none. Oh, Barbara. Barbara's still online. Barbara, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Barbara Martinez, principal of Pacific Grove Adult School. I just wanted to address your comment, Trustee Paff, regarding adult ed funding. Yes, we do have funding, and we really do look forward to being creative in using that funding. Of course, we wanted and still want our state preschool and our children with disabilities preschool to be on our campus. However, to put money towards construction using adult ed funding. Fund 11, as you know, is restricted monies and needs to go towards adult ed. So if we're looking to be creative, we've always had the inspiration to turn our campus into an early childhood development center where we had a pathway program so that we could create jobs for our community to give back to our district. As we know, we're really short on instructional assistants. So we would love to be able to create and use those monies to create that relationship with MPC and other colleges to use our early learning centers as a lab and a pathway program. So if we could use the monies to direct it towards adult learning and incorporate pathways with our high school and our colleges, that is something that we could definitely do. We could look for space as it is right now, and we have in the past, to bring our state preschool and our children with disabilities preschool over to our campus, but we don't have the bathrooms attached inside those classrooms, along with the other facilities needed for those programs as it stands right now. So we have been looking, and we've been creative in trying to find space to bring them over as soon as possible. But I just wanted to address that issue as you brought it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal Martinez. With that, that particular decision is downstream still, and this year has not been the year to try and make some scope changes. That's neither here nor there. So with that, I think, thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation. And I want to just thank the public again for their trust. And as we move this forward, and Matt, please, as you're doing some of these projects, you know, thank you, PG voters, put the signs back up. You know, recognize that we are here judiciously through their generosity. So thank you. Okay, review of special ed contracts. Ms. Davies.
Well done, Matt.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Trustees. Claire Davies, Director of Student Services. Twice a year, we review special education contracts to see our progress with the monies that have been allocated for certain needs that we do have in our school district that we are not able to provide within the district. So at times we need to enter into contracts with outside providers, which might be non-public schools, non-public agencies, independent contractors, and Monterey County Office of Education. All the contracts have been presented to the board and approved, and they amount to $233,307. And as of November 10th, 2021, so far we have spent $26,120. So we're pretty much always waiting for the invoices to come in. They come in at kind of slow at times. And so I'm sure we'll be receiving them as we move into December.
Okay, so we have a budget and we have some stuff that is encumbered at this point. Is that correct? Everything under this original contract. Some of them are really an NTE and not to exceed. And what we see is billed already, this 26,120 is really just billed to date. So we are well under where we expect to be. We have a lot of outstanding bills. Am I correct in all of that?
Well, and also I should add that some contracts we have not needed to use so far this school year. That would be, excuse me, the psych ed contract. We have not yet have to tap into that. We have not yet had to use Sharon Newman for sign language interpretation. Those are the only two that we have not used at all this school year. And, but we always have those as open contracts so that we can move on them very, very quickly as the need arises.
Thank you very much. I have no questions. Brian?
So we see this twice a year, and roughly when do we see it again?
You'll see it probably in May as we're moving towards closing the books.
Okay. Yeah, I remember seeing this. I mean, it comes in like twice a year, of course. So, and so it's been a long day. I've been up since 4:30. I'm sorry. So, no, I appreciate the details. I know that can be very fluid, and it can sometimes get exciting to look at and go, wow, we haven't spent any of it. And then you get the invoice or you have to spend it. Something comes up. Sometimes you don't. So that's all. Thank you so much, though, for the information.
Ms. Swanson?
Thank you. Thank you, Claire, for this presentation. It seems pretty straightforward, but I have a couple of questions for you. So just kind of like looking into, the next few months, and I know it's a crazy year. Is there anything that, you anticipate needing that maybe the board can help plug in for you to help serve your students?
Oh, I appreciate that very much, Trustee Swanson. I think that right now we're doing very well, and we don't really expect any. I know of something that's coming down the pipe. We will be bringing a contract forward for an occupational therapy to backfill a leave January and February. I'll be bringing that to the December board meeting. We also have 2 parents that we are required to reimburse them for mileage. And I'll be bringing that at the December board meeting as well. But other than that, right now, we don't anticipate anything, but as you know, it all depends on the students that we are serving and what they need. And then I always inform you, and we move forward with providing for their needs.
Okay, thanks. And then this might really be a crystal ball question, but as far as summer school or specifically ESY for our kids, how does that look with related services and certificated staff serving?
It's too soon to tell. Okay. I usually start my what we call a shoulder tap in the business of going around and asking individual folks if they're going to be able to teach or provide services in the summer.
Okay.
But we don't usually formally roll out the postings till March, but I think we'll probably move it up to February. And then that lets us know how many positions we need to backfill with people that aren't in those positions during the school year.
Okay, that makes total sense. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Ralph, do we have any information on mileage rates for next year?
Need to look in that information up for you. I don't have that.
I don't know. That's an interesting thing because
Yeah, that's something I'll have to, I can
down
ask.
but it's been steady for a while. I don't think it affects us drastically,
No, it wouldn't be drastic.
Ms. Dawson.
Yeah, thank you for a nice presentation.
You're welcome.
Dr. Rivera.
Thank you. No questions.
Okay. Do we have anybody online for questions? Okay, Claire, there are no questions other than that. Thank you for presenting this information. Let's hope we keep well below, maintain that, and be able to put that back into next year's reserve more or less. So thank you very much for your time and efforts here.
You're welcome.
And our last information, future agenda. Dr. Porras, we have one item that says that sometime in the future after we get into redistricting, we reconsider the choice of how we choose a president and board and clerk. There was a request made to say, okay, do we have a committee for how would we like to approach the board members in the equity system? I think that's an open discussion. I don't think we want to try and resolve that as last minute here.
Claire.
I'm sorry, I was talking to my dog.
Wow.
He's been
Your dog-
wanting me to hold him. I'll turn off my mic.
Dog had an opinion on that.
Yeah.
Return of affordable housing. So I'll tell you where that stands, and then we can decide if we're going to keep that on there for any length of time. You know, I went and I listened in, and the PG board is sort of quasi dissolved with the expectation it will come back sometime next year. So holding that, it feels like it's in a holding pattern, and I don't think that keeping it on. And I think the board sometime in the future should have a more serious discussion independent of anything that's going to happen with PG as to whether or not we want to take a serious look. We know we can get bond information from Dale Scott. We know this because he's already sent it to us. So, you know, it's available as to whether or not we want to say, okay, let's do something else with David Avenue. I don't think this is the year to decide that, but I do think it should be decided independent of what PG and the housing authority there is looking for. But I think we want to keep it part of that. But I'm happy to take that off at this point. I don't think there's going to be any more information coming down. So comments, concerns on that?
We agree.
Okay.
Fine with that.
Okay, we still have the parent orientation to the board. CSBA works in slow and mysterious ways. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then Ralph, I will defer to you on the rest of this. On September 25th, media relations, general correspondence. That's coming up next meeting. Is that correct?
We're bringing the agenda options for you at the December meeting, and I believe we're going to be working on the media relations piece to the extent that we understand what that is at the next meeting.
Okay. Anything else that you have on that, Ralph?
The board requested board orientation. We began that discussion at the last meeting. We didn't finish it.
We lost Carolyn in the middle of that discussion.
We lost it, but we kind of talked about it a bit and said we were going to look at the bylaws and see what was stated. Right? Isn't that where we ended?
Well, that's where I thought we left
Yeah.
it, yeah. I think that those bylaws need to be rewritten because they're a little, they're confusing at best. Won't meet with what we've done in the past, really. You know, I think what we've done in the past is we've had meetings with the primary players in the district when a new board member comes on board, or when they're candidates.
I was going to say, we had a whole meeting with the candidates with the last time when I ran, and we were able to meet everybody. And then Dr. Porras always does an orientation individually. And
yeah, I did it last time that I ran, and that trustee Carolyn Swanson ran. I think so. I think we were both part of that kind of Q&A with, it was more of a less answers than, or less questions than answers to questions we would ask later, if that makes sense.
But it was definitely nice to get to see who the different players are and
Yeah.
who the directors are. And that was quite informative.
Well, if we do remove that, am I hearing to add in somewhere online a review of the board bylaws? And again, that'd probably be during one of the governance special meetings, I'm assuming, but I don't know how you want me to address these.
That's probably the place to look.
I'm in favor of
are you
looking at that
thinking?
specific policy and trying to get it right so that we don't get hung up in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Swanson?
Yeah, I could see that going away from this agenda and just getting folded into the overall kind of overhaul review. Yep.
Okay. Okay. You have direction there?
To remove that item, I'm not hearing to add.
Well, so we're going to go through policy reviews generally, and that's actually in the bylaws. So yes, ultimately it'll come back in the bylaw discussion.
Got it. Okay.
As to what we're trying to do. And again, noting that this was put in, approximately 72 seconds before we went into COVID.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
That we have to touch it up a little bit.
And then the only other one, the question was the last one, the board member requested a resource tab for potential board members. I don't know if you're wanting that to come after CSBA has had a chance to do the budget policy workshop, or again, I'm not really sure where to go with that.
I feel like if somebody's interested in being on the board, it might be nice to have a blurb that we run a couple of times a year, or maybe year before elections are coming with the redistricting and everything, where we could say, if you are interested in the possibility of being on the board, please know you're welcome to attend board meetings or talk to board members for further, for garnering some knowledge about what it entails. I think it'd be nice to kind of put that out there as a kind of semi-recruitment thing, but I don't think we need a tab and all kinds of stuff. I think it'd be nice to put it in different places. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking we have a tab for the board on the district site. Maybe it could be embedded in there.
Yeah, it's very static information, so it's building it if you want to do it.
It's also nice. I know last time there was an election that got us a great guy. I remember Trustee Swanson mentioned, being on the board's great. I mean, there was just literally a comment made during the meeting that appealed to people to, get involved and come be part of this. I mean, I think it's again on our communication thing of maybe some of it's verbal and maybe principals could say something at site councils or different places that would go out to the community. I think we could get a little more thoughtful about that.
I agree with everything you've said. Okay. What I interpret this as is, look, there's a number of little odds and ends and steps to get there that we could create. And really it's one page. This is the very basic. The very first thing is called the election office, and go from there. And here's the number for the election office if you're interested in this. And this is the time frame in which it usually happens, but the specific time frame we're not going to update regularly. So for me, it's a few odds and ends that if we have a board member page, add pretty easily. And then,
are you interested? I think that's great, John.
So it's just a matter of
yeah,
deciding what that content looks like and bringing it back to the board. So
good idea.
I'll tell you what, I'll try and bring back a basic outline that we can submit somewhere else. Carolyn, does that work for you?
They give us
Yeah, so this was an item that I had requested, and so what I'm looking for is kind of what you guys are talking about. Trustee Rivera, yes, we have that board tab. That's where I was thinking it could go. Christy, I love the idea of inviting possible candidates to chat with any board member they like about running. And John, yes, on the board tab, I was thinking of having something really basic, because we don't want to give out information that's not ours to give, right? I mean, there's always changing things with elections. So we would say, first step, you're interested, call the elections office so they can tell you which forms to file before you raise a penny or spend a penny on your election. We can mention that our candidate statements are paid for by the district, because I only knew that because I knew John Paff and John Paff told me. So how would anyone who was running and didn't know John Paff know that information? Eventually the elections office did tell me, but for a long stretch of time I wasn't sure, and it can be a couple $100, which can be the difference between somebody running or not running. The tab could have just a little link to the FPPC guidelines. That as that simple, then the FPPC can update their website, and then that's done. I think we could have our terms, even though it's already kind of on one spot of the website, we might as well have it there so folks can log in. I get that question all the time. Who's up in the next election and when is the next election? And it's not because anyone's asking because they want some trustee not to be elected. They just have no idea where to find that information. It's like basic step number one info. So the terms and the trustees and when all of our terms expire. And then also maybe a little blurb that says, if you have any further questions, not only can you ask other trustees, but you can ask Dr. Portis as well. So that's what I was thinking.
Wondering, should she write this? I mean,
No,
she's,
I already volunteered. So
Okay.
I'll put it together.
Perfect.
I'll get something together and then route it and, you guys can feedback and that can be done behind the scenes. So,
yes. I
okay.
have a couple of things.
Yes.
I've started to ask about this 2 or 3 times. The drop schedule that's listed in the calendar, and of course, they're gone now. I just want to know a little more about it. They give them here 4 weeks, and if you don't get out, you're in big trouble. I know some districts give kids more time, and I just worry at the beginning of the year or the beginning of the semester, if you're sick or your mother's been diagnosed with breast cancer, something goes on that you're off. If you don't bail, you're sunk. I mean, I know some people wait until, give people a little more time.
How would you like to see that agenda?
Well,
I
what-
think the conversation that we had with the schedule might have been a good time to bring that up. We can ask them that on the action item that comes in December, when they bring their agenda back, and you might be able to get some answers there and some input. It's not directly related to the schedule of courses, but it is in a way.
Well, it's mentioned in there, but I think it's something the board should look at. It would benefit kids if there was a little more time, I think. Doesn't change their life. I mean, if you drop a class, you got a hole in your schedule anyway. You're not going to jump over to chemistry at that point, but it gives them more time to try to salvage. And the other thing that I've talked about before in here, I
I
can't,
need to interrupt you.
why?
It is 9:59. I'd like
I'll
to
be
take the
done in
meeting
less than 1 minute.
to no more than 10:05. I think we'll be done in 5 minutes or less.
I think I'll be done
All
in 1
right,
minute.
so is that your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second.
Okay, health requirement. I know before COVID, we,
Actually have to vote. We
actually
actually have to vote. So
oh, I'm sorry.
we need a roll
trying to
call.
finish
All in
before
favor?
10.
Yeah, all in favor of to extend till 10:05.
Yeah.
Dr. Frank,
Aye.
Christie?
Trustee Dawson.
Aye.
Trustee Paff.
Yes.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson. Trustee Brian Swanson, aye. Does that work for you?
Good enough.
All
Thank you.
good.
Go ahead there, Christie.
Your meeting.
Just, I thought I could finish before 10. Health requirement. I know it's part of PE. I think with COVID, I'd like to know, to me, health is a place where SEL can be, the social emotional stuff can be addressed with 30 kids, 33 kids, and daily versus once a week, we're going to do a blurb. I just think I'd like to know that what's going on. And I'd like us to think as a district about, I think that's a great way to work with kids.
Yeah, what are you asking for agenda?
I don't know. Should it be on the agenda, the status of the health classes? And would it be, why did it get dropped in this district when it's not dropped in other districts?
Many districts moved it into the PE department. It was when the health requirements changed in the state, they just moved it to a place where it was, they could access it. We can, I mean, certainly I can bring
I'd love to at least keep the squeeze on a little, please. Maybe they could bring it in and show what they're doing again.
Got it on the agenda.
I know in my 9 months in PE, I never saw it. So I'd love to hear about it.
Okay.
Frank? Carolyn?
Yep, I got a couple of things here. I've got my eye on the clock. Okay, so we should discuss if we want to have a board committee related to our board policy overhaul and our CSBA policy workshop. So we need to put that on the agenda. I think Mandy was asking us to do that as well, so we can all be clear and on the same page on that one. I have one, but I know staff is loaded up right now, so I think I'm going to wait for that one until another month. Can we just put on the agenda, and I don't have to speak about it further, but last February, I was asked to kind of develop an idea for an advocacy committee within our board John Paff, do you remember that?
I do. You said you would work on advocacy for us. Yeah.
Yes, so I've been noodling on that. And so can we add that to the agenda for like maybe February or March?
Sure.
Okay.
Advocacy for what?
We said, what does advocacy mean? That one of the board's items is supposed to be advocates for the district. And what does that mean? Not within the board, but within, what does that mean at state and higher levels? Because we talked about this as a general thing that we don't even know what the hell it means, really. You're giving me this look like, what does that mean? And that's exactly the problem.
I'm looking at you thoroughly enjoying what you're saying. My question is,
Christie?
would this be a special meeting maybe where we looked into this?
I don't think so. I think we'll start with what she asked. It's just there, and then it verges
Okay.
and converges.
We'll
out.
just agendize it and then I can describe what I'm noodling on and you all can approve it or, give feedback or whatever. And then, and then another thing that came up in my list for this evening was a diversity equity committee within the board, either short term so that those folks would be attending the process going on with the Praxis contract, or long-term ongoing over the next 3 years. So I think we would need to discuss that. And then Dr. Portas, will you give me your feedback on an MPC collaboration item? Do you feel like we should put that on now or maybe wait until springtime? I can bring it back in springtime, so you don't have to have it on this list.
I think the high school's already aware of it. I would suggest spring.
Spring,
They work with that with the CT all the time. So, yeah.
Okay, and I have a couple other ones, but I'm going to keep them to myself because I think that's already a lot. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Brian.
The idea that I had is going to wait until after February and that big meeting. I'm going to wait till then.
Okay, very
A
good.
big
So
meeting
that's a
in
no.
February.
The big equity.
23rd meeting. February
Oh,
23rd.
the 20th, okay.
Yep, I'm gonna wait
Any
till
member of
then.
the public online?
And the
We lost Beth.
Plus, Beth, that's a statement.
I'm done.